game of basketball has taken us places we can never imagine. For winning 4 EuroLeague titles,
playing 6 years in 5 countries, and making connections with people from all around the world.
We have stories that can last a lifetime. Now it's time to tell yours.
When I met Michael Jordan for the first time, and still to this day, if I see him, he's glowing.
It just came down to, like I said, looking myself in the mirror like, brother, do you want to play ball or not?
I've never been in an environment like EuroLeague.
Because, living over here in Europe, bro, we kings over this joint, bro.
Denver Nuggets.
Appreciate y'all having us on here.
Yes, sir, man. Big time. This is really dope.
This is Hoop Tales. Today on Hoop Tales, we have one of the most decorated guards in European basketball history. A 2-time EuroLeague champion, a 4-time Russian Cup champion, and a 9-time Russian League champion. He's also a member of the EuroLeague's 2000-2010 All-Decade team and currently serves as Director of Personnel for the Brooklyn Nets. The one and only J.R. Holden. What's up, J.R.?
Oh, I'm good, man. I appreciate the love. I thought you was talking about you when you first started. Until you got to the end, and you said, now working in Brooklyn. I thought we was about to talk about you.
Nah, man. You laid the footsteps, man. We just try to follow your path, man. You the trailblazer.
Hey, I appreciate blazing the trail. I see you created your own trail. You got a whole path now. I'm like, shoot. I thought I was gonna have a lot of love for a long time, and then you came and just kicked the door in.
Nah, bro.
I don't even know if they know my last name in Russia.
Oh, man, come on.
Just kicked the door in.
Yeah, crazy. Oh man, it's gonna be fun. Now, so first off, how are you and your family doing during this time? Where are you at right now? And kind of like take us through your timeline. How you doing with this whole COVID-19 situation?
Honestly, everything is good right now. I live in Detroit, Michigan, in the suburbs of Detroit, and my wife is from here, so the family's been great. It's one of those things where, for us as players, getting to spend this type of time around your family for a consistent 30, 40 days in a row is unheard of for us. So actually getting this time at home, man, and seeing my kids grow up, my 13-year-old, my 6-year-old, just every day for 30, 40 days has just been different, but it's been a blessing. So all the negative stuff that's going on, it's been a blessing just to be able to spend time with the family.
Now we're going to need your prediction. We put on your commissioner's hat right now. Do you see the NBA returning during the season?
Now, can I flip this and say, do you see the EuroLeague returning this season?
I mean, I want to be optimistic, honestly, but
you're the commissioner now. You can't be optimistic. I need you to say what it is. I'm gonna give you mine, but you can't put me on the spot and not have. Well, I'm gonna be optimistic. You're the commissioner.
All right. Nah, honestly, no. I don't see it returning because they talking about, they already pinpointed saying that they're gonna do it in one venue, and my whole thing is there's no way to kind of protect the players, protect everybody. They would literally have to test everybody every single day. They would test, everybody in the hotel, everybody that comes to the arena, every player. And then we got to literally kind of be quarantined in that hotel. And you know how it is as a player. You can't keep, guys quarantined in one place for that amount of time. So I just think for safety reasons, I think it would just be irresponsible on everybody's part, to continue. I mean, I think that, we should just, deal with most important, and that's people's health. People are losing their lives right now. So I think right now we deal with that, and then focus on what may happen next season. In my opinion.
Right. I'm going to do what you say. I want to be optimistic, but I think it's one of those things where the NBA does. You're talking about billions of dollars, so I could see it possibly making it happen, at least a playoff. I think there's a lot of things behind the scenes that we don't know, that they may be able to test and have tests maybe quicker or faster. I think being in the NBA, and because you're talking about billions of dollars, they might be able to really be able to enclose it. That's like staff, I'm thinking sheer trainers, so you don't have to have everybody got their own trainers, but like kind of make it smaller, but at one venue. And if you lock it down, I won't say it will happen, but I think there's a lot better chance of it happening in the NBA because there's so much more money involved. I think the EuroLeague, just the risk of, you know, my biggest thing is like the risk of somebody catching it and really dying or being sick, and that small thing can change the landscape of European basketball, can change the landscape of the NBA. It'll all be seen different if an older coach, like I'm thinking like Greg Popovich is older, Mike D'Antonio are older. Though somebody like that gets sick and it just go bad, it could really affect just the culture of what sports has brought to everybody.
We got to jump into your early days, man, growing up in Pittsburgh. Talk about what it was like coming up in Pittsburgh and when you first started playing the game of basketball.
I probably grew up just like y'all grew up, man. Seriously, you don't know what you have because everybody in your area has the same thing, right? Like, I didn't know, like, I didn't have a lot of money or whatever. All my friends, we all hung out, did the same things. We didn't have all these games and phones like they do now. So to me, we grew up outside. So growing up outside, I think you just have a different feel for basketball, a different grind, a different mentality. So like everybody else, when you grow up outside, you don't just play basketball. Y'all play football on the street. You play stickball with the baseball. You throw it off playing with the tennis ball off the steps. We did all that too. So for me, I probably really didn't get into basketball probably till I was like 12. But I always played. Like I probably was 6 years old, just would shoot, go down to the playground. I lived on a street called Franklin, and it's like they called it the good half was like up the street and the bad half was down the street. So you got drugs and everything on the bottom half of Franklin, and up at the top it was just more like just more family oriented up top, I would say. So to me, it was just like having the best of both worlds. So I don't feel like I grew up like disadvantaged or anything like that. I feel like I grew up in a good neighborhood where people cared about each other and everybody on the street was your parent. You know how that goes. You acting up, the parent down the street gonna lay into you. So you know what I mean? Like that's how I feel like I grew up.
Nah, that's dope. That's dope. You had a basketball idol?
Basketball idol? Probably the first person I started really loving was Isaiah Thomas. I like Kenny Anderson. I fell in love with Rod Strickland as I got older, but as a young person, I would probably say Isaiah Thomas was like the first dude that I was like, he's little like me, and I think I could be that. Like, I see Jordan and all this now, and you have a certain respect for all these guys that are bigger, but I'm a little dude, so I was trying to be like somebody that looked like that was my size and could do the things I thought I would be able to do one day.
Now, walk us through your prep career, your high school career. Talk about, you started out at the local school, but then you end up transferring to a military school. That's correct. Talk about that. The reason why you decided to transfer to the military school, and then talk a little bit more about like your whole recruiting process and when you kind of figured out that that you were a D1 prospect.
Ooh, wow. So growing up in Wilkesburg, like that's all I knew. So I played football for something called like the Mighty Mites or the midget football, how y'all, I think that's what it's called now, the midget league. Yeah. Well, there was a school called Lindsley in Wheeling, West Virginia that only came up to recruit kids for football out of the inner city and bring them down there. So the year before that, there was two kids from close to my area named Rasheen Hill and Marcus Buford. They went down there. I guess they ain't like it. Next year they was back. Like, I ain't going to no Wheeling, West Virginia, dog. Like, I'm not with that, right? Like, I mean, no disrespect to Wheeling, West Virginia. I'm just saying, like, it wasn't for them. So they came back up the next year, and me and a kid named Aaron Moore were the two people they were looking at to go play football down there. And for me, I don't know about y'all, but if you go down there, they like, yo, you gotta wear a shirt and tie, and you gotta do this. I'm like, I don't even got no money for no shirt and tie. Like, I ain't trying to go to no school like
not
this.
Not at all.
So my mom, she was real interested in the school though. So we went down there, me, Aaron, his dad, and my mom. We went down, and we took the test, and it was like an entrance test. And I guess at these schools, they basically tell you like, okay, you can start in this grade or that grade. So honestly, I went down and I wasn't even trying to pass the test. Like literally, I was just putting anything. They were like, he may have to move back a grade. So
backfire.
So my mom was like, he can't go there if he's moving back a grade. Like that's not possible. He can't. I'm not moving him back a grade. So actually they fooled me. I was at Wilkesburg and we thought it was like a standardized test. So I took the test again. He's fine. He can go, he can come. We'll give him a scholarship to play football. And my mom was like, to get him out of this area and give him a better chance at a better life, she chose for me to go down there to Wheeling, West Virginia. And to be honest, it wouldn't have been a decision of mine. I wasn't really trying to go. It wasn't a place that I thought fit me and how I grew up. But it was probably the best decision and the hardest decision my mom had to make. So at 13 years old, I headed off to Wheeling, West Virginia, to that military, kind of like a private school, but like a military type school because you just had uniforms and stuff every day. From there, I played football until my senior year. So I got down there and it was, you know how you good in your own hood. But when you go somewhere else, you start being like, I ain't as good as I thought I was.
I ain't like that.
Yeah, I ain't really like that, right? I thought I ain't going to front. And to be real, I was going down there and, it was about white people. I was like, I'm about to kill this.
Yeah.
I did not know what I had in store for me, bro. So I went down in my first 2 years, and you had to play 2 sports. Like, you had to play 2 sports to keep a scholarship. So I played football, basketball, and baseball. But they really liked me in football and baseball. My basketball, I was okay, but I really wasn't, like, passionate about it. But I was like, I'll play. My junior year, I just started getting more attention in basketball. It just came more natural to me. So my junior year, I was like, I don't want to play no other sports. And they were like, well, you got to play 2 sports. And I was like, well, I'll just leave. My mom was like, no, you won't. So I played football and basketball my junior year. And then my senior year, they just let me play basketball. And to be honest with you, I didn't get recruited by nobody. I was like, what is it? I forgot what it was for high school. It was like honorable mention, all state. And I was like leading the state in scoring, but I was honorable mention, all state. I'm like, yo, how I get an honorable mention, lead the state in scoring? But I was at a private school, at a prep school. So they really didn't see it as the competition was good enough. Coming out, I had 3 schools that were really on me, which was William and Jefferson, which was like a Division III school, Mansfield, PA, which is a D2 school, and Howard and Coach Butch Beard. And I was like, I guess I'm going to Howard. My mom was not with it because I guess we had an aunt that went to Howard and she had went to some party and they had put something in, I guess one of the drinks or something. And she's never been the same. She's kind of in one of those like halfway houses now. And my mom was like, no, you're not. Howard ain't it. And at that time I was like, well, that's only Mansfield. When I say it's 6 degrees of separation, my sister is married to a dude named Christopher Horn. Christopher Horn was going to Bucknell on a scholar. I guess back then it wasn't like full scholarships. It was like aid at schools like that. And the coach had left that year to go down to William and Mary. He tells me, he's like, so I didn't know Chris at the time at all. So the new coach comes, Coach Patrick Flannery. He's going to Pittsburgh or coming to Pittsburgh to tell Chris, like, hey, we still want you here. You don't have to go to William and Mary. Chris was like, no, this dude recruited me. I want to go to William and Mary. No lie, this one white dude, Coach Patrick Flannery, is the only white dude in the gym on this place called Oostende on the Hill. I guess this is him seeing if I'm worthy of coming. I played that day. He's like, we'll find whatever you need to make sure you come to Bucknell. That's how I came to Bucknell. And that dude is now married to my sister, and they got 4 kids.
Wow, bro.
No lie.
Crazy.
Christopher Horn turned down Bucknell to go to William and Mary. He's now married to my sister, and they got 4 kids.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Seriously.
That's crazy.
So talk about your career at Bucknell. You know, you kind of had a natural progression. You know, started off kind of slow, didn't play as much, but when you got to your junior year, you started to take over. So when was that moment when you kind of knew that, you know, you were that guy on the team?
When I went up there, my freshman year, like everybody's freshman year probably at college here, like it's a progression, right? You go there, you don't know what to expect. It's your first time on a college campus. You got freedom. You ain't got that wake up no more. It's like, yo, I get to live, baby. So I went to college and it was a shock that first year. Not so much like the shock of being away from home because I had already done that. It was just the shock of like, you're not in military school no more. You got the freedom to do what you want. Like at military school, it's like 7 o'clock, you got study hall, 8:30, they turning off your lights. Yeah, it's discipline. School, y'all know college, it's like, you do what you want. You get it how you get it. So that was a cool, like the first year, I feel like I shouldn't have been playing that much. I felt like it was a year for me to know what college basketball was all about. Now, my sophomore year, you could probably even ask Coach Flannery, like, I should have been starting my sophomore year. Mm-hmm. And my sophomore year, at that time, Bucknell, who they aren't who they are now. Yeah. But back then, we had went to play Alabama, who was like ranked in the country 18th. And that was my first game ever starting because the starting point guard got hurt. Blessing in disguise. We go out, we win, I ball. First ever time they beat somebody ranked and all that. That was back then. Now, of course, they're different now. But then it was like, oh, man. So for me, I thought I was the juice. I was like, man, I told y'all I should have been starting. Like I told y'all, man, you got these dudes in front of me. I came right back to this seat when that game was over.
Come back over here.
So like my sophomore year was like a growing experience because everybody was seniors. And even though I thought I was ready, it taught me something about like, there's a certain level of maturity and stuff you need, if you want to lead a team. You know what I mean? Cal, I know you know. I know Tyler, you know. Like, it's different when you just like, I'm hooping, and it's another when you like, you the leader. And I didn't know that as a sophomore. I was just like, I'm hooping. Like, man, they holding me back. I'm about to transfer. But it was just, I wasn't ready to be a leader yet. I wasn't ready to take that step that he wanted me to take. So my junior year, I felt like that summer, I worked super hard and really pushed myself because I wanted, like, I had goals and I wrote them down. Like, I want to be best player in the conference and do this. I want to go to the tournament. I even had like NBA All-Star. I had all that stuff going into my junior year. Because after playing against Alabama, you felt like, oh man, I ain't scared. Like, them dudes ain't no different than me. Right. But when you don't get to play against them, we just watch them on TV. At least me, I only got to see them dudes on TV. I didn't play at no big time school, so they just seemed like so much better than me. But when you went up against them, I was like, these dudes ain't like that. Like I think I can compete, and I think that's a eye-opening experience for a lot of people that go to small schools. When you get on the court with them big dudes, you like, they ain't no different than me. Like, let's hoop.
You start turning the corner. You say your junior year, so going into junior year, now you're the man. The senior year, like, how was you? Felt a lot more confident. You was balling out. Like, talk about that.
So my junior and senior year were like night and day because my junior year, I feel like I kicked in the door because people knew me, but they didn't know me. And then my senior year, it was like the expectation. I was supposed to be player of the year because Donald Foyle was also in my conference at the time. I ended up getting drafted.
From Colgate, right?
Yep, from Colgate. So he had left. It was his team. He had left early, 1 year early. So now it was my chance to win all the awards because he was cleaning up every award every year. Like, he was just cleaning them up. So it was like, oh, it's my time. And it just seemed like my senior year, everything went well, but not as well as it should have went. And not so much just me, but when you playing with people that go to school to really go to school, it's different when you on a scholarship playing basketball or where dudes come to school to like, I want to be a pro. They didn't have those aspirations. And there's no knock on students back then. They were student athletes, and I respect that. But I wasn't there really to be the best student. I was there to be the best hooper, and then school was just like, I'm going to get good enough grades because I know my people's is like, you don't graduate, it's going to be a problem. So I never came with that attitude. I didn't want to go to school, but I just came with the attitude I wanted to play basketball first. So I felt like I underachieved as a winner in college, but I probably maybe overachieved what people thought my talent was.
I talk about now you graduated, and I'll talk about that, that being from your family, that be able to go back to your mom to see your family with the diploma, and then talk about your aspirations afterwards. You said like you had a list about being in NBA and going through all that. Talk about did you get invited to Portsmouth? Did you have league opportunities, or what was your kind of like your mind? What was your next step at that?
At that time, it was '98, so it was the NBA lockout. So
yeah. Oh yeah.
So during that time, I'm not the dude that tries to live in the past of like what would have happened. Yeah. I wouldn't have got drafted. Yeah. I wouldn't have got invited to Portsmouth. Like just at that time, I just felt like it was more elite players going to those places. So I think I would have probably still ended up in the same situation. Mm-hmm. But the first things first, the education. Like Bucknell is a really good school, and I knew what I was going to school for. So when I graduated, I never intended okay, I didn't know about overseas. So I was like, I guess I ain't going to for the NBA then. I guess getting a job is the next thing, right? Like no agents was knocking down my door or calling me like, hey, you got a job, we got a job for you. But during that summer when I graduated, after I graduated, my mom came up, my dad came up, family affair, had a great time. I came home and my mom was like, I know you had these basketball dreams, but August 1st, you're getting a job. Like, I don't care what basketball dreams you got. You get a job. You live in this house. Yeah. August 1st, you live in this house, you get a job. So at that time, I was still one of my good, I would say a mentor who was coaching. Darrell Porter was the head coach at Duquesne at the time. Uh-huh. And I used to go down there just to get workouts in. And Mike James, I think, was there, who ended up playing in the NBA. But on his desk, there was a card that was like, if you want to play European basketball, like, fill this out. Now, I don't know if this is how I got the job or not, but I filled it out, sent it in. And
just off a whim, like you
just off a whim. Like it was on his desk. I was like, yo, and I ain't even telling him. I was like, shit. I am not gonna lie. And I'll say it was about 2 or 3 weeks later, there was a guy named Mr. Rauno that called me and was like, you want to come try out for a team in Latvia? And I'm like, cool. And they were like, he's like, it's like $400 a month. I mean, $400 a week for the tryout. He's like, it's $2,500 a month. I don't know about y'all, but I was like, $400 for the week.
That's I'm going right now. Where I sign?
Yeah, he was like, yo, he's like, you have your passport? This, I was like, yeah. He was like, well, pack as if you're going to stay, but it's a trial, so you could get cut and go back home. Now, when I say I didn't have money, I literally used to go to school with a green trunk. One of them old trunk treasure chest trunks. No lie, bro. I packed that thing with a leather coat, couple pair of shoes, some jeans, and I was like, if I don't make it, I'm not coming home. Like, I'm not lying to you, bro. Like, this is not like no rib. Like, I had this Louis Vuitton luggage. No, bro. I had a trunk, and I went over, man, and I made it, man. Like, by the grace of God, like, it was the perfect situation. The dude that picked me up, and I don't know about like a lot of whoever's listening to this, but if you ever been on an airplane and you own the only black person, you know it's just a certain level of being uncomfortable that you be like, am I should I really be going here? And y'all know the feeling. Y'all all know the feeling like man, this might not be right for me. Like, So, and this is in 1998. So y'all know I was like, this probably ain't the move I should be making. But went over, man, did the tryout. Mind you, they never gave me the $400. No lie.
Sound like overseas.
Like tomorrow.
I never got that 400, but that was my start, man, and it was like a blessing in disguise. I didn't have an agent. When I got there, I signed my name, and they were like, "Oh, who's your agent?" And I was like, "Whoever called me to get the job," and I signed his name, and that's how they did it. And I didn't have an agent for like my first 3 years overseas, but that's how I really started. It was I had all these agents calling or nothing like that. Literally, that's why I say, man, I wrote that book, Blessed Footsteps. Like, I really believe that. Like, why me? Like, why? Why somebody call me and say you could have a trial for $400 and you can go from that to how I finished my career. So I really do believe I was blessed, man.
like we asked somebody we interviewed earlier, you know, about what overseas he was in 2003, and we asked him, like, you know, what was overseas life like in 2003. So for you came in 98. So what was like life for you? Because there was no Netflix, there was no Apple TV, there was no cell phones, there was no like.
There might not have been no DVDs at that
time.
My man, look, y'all getting real disrespectful. Y'all getting real disrespectful.
It was like straight.
He said you wasn't no cell phones. You just aged me like I'm 55.
Bro, yo, 98, man. I mean, I'm sure, and you was in Riga too, so I'm sure it's a lot different than being. So like, what was you doing on a daily basis, like, you know, compared, like, you know, because there's guys now, like, you know, we be over in Russia, whatever, and they be like complaining, like, man, I ain't had this, I don't have this. So we always think back, it's like, yo, what was, and this is like, we always think about, like, what was JR doing? What were these guys doing back then? So like in 98, what was you doing, like in Riga? How was your life?
Man, y'all ain't even gonna believe this. One, I got over there, I don't drive stick, and I never drove a stick at that time. I didn't even have it. I got my license when I was 21 years old. Like, I just got my license, bro. Like, I didn't get my license until I was 21. No lie. Like, my biggest thing about people getting licenses, I ain't got no car. What I'm getting a license for? Like,
it's a show it off.
So, yeah, so I can be like, yo, I got my license. Nah, I didn't get my license till I was 21. So they're like, we got a stick. And I'm like, I don't drive stick. So they were like, somebody will pick you up every day, take you to practice, and bring you home. Now, back then, y'all got the luxury of, we shared apartments. So there was two of us in the apartment. Me and my first teammate was Dan Kraft, white dude that went to Northwestern. Literally, the apartment was like literally 3 rooms, a living room and his room, and my room was on the other side. That was it. We shared a kitchen, shared a bathroom, all that. Like, it was almost like college. And the first probably week was easy because I was trying to make the team. Yeah. But when I say life became a lot different once you made it, because now you know you here, like, you're staying.
Right.
You got 2 channels. You got MTV Europe, and you had CNN. That's it. You ain't had a satellite that y'all got. And I don't know about y'all, a little bit old. Y'all young, but y'all ain't that young.
Yeah.
I had a calling card. You had calling cards to go to the payphone.
Yeah.
So you didn't have, like, y'all ain't had no cell phones, none of that. So I used to buy these calling cards to call home from a payphone, like right down the street, like right down the steps and around the corner from the apartment. No lie, bro. Like, I read the Bible from front to back my first year overseas.
Word.
Just because I didn't have anything else to do. Like, I didn't have no TV. I couldn't drive. I didn't speak the language. What was I going to do? Like, I didn't have money, so it wasn't like, oh, I'm about to go buy. Can y'all send me some books over? Like, I was just happy to get a calling card. Like, the books. Like, literally, my mom sent me with a Bible, and I read that Bible from front to back my first year overseas.
So first, I got to know what your mom thought when you told her you was going to Latvia. Who was her first thought?
First off, I don't think she believed me because she had never heard of it. She was like, Latvia, where is that at? I don't even understand. And then she kept saying, like, they don't even play basketball in Latvia. They're lying. They're going to hurt you over there. They're lying. They don't play basketball. Like, my mom did not think they even played basketball.
Thought it was a setup.
She thought it was a setup, man. You know old folks, man. My mom, 60, she like, nah, like, Black people don't go to Europe. That's what my mom kept saying. Black people don't go to Europe. But, like, literally when I got over there and tried out, like, I think she was a little nervous just because, I mean, it's me. I have an older brother, my brother Warren. I think for her, she was just like, well, her baby's leaving, you know what I mean? And going not up the street where she can call me. Like, there wasn't a cell phone. She had to wait till I called her when I got there. There wasn't no, let me know if you made it. Back then, you know, now we get over there, you could text or tell your mom, I'm straight, I'm here. Back then, it was none of that. So for her, she was a little worried and a little concerned. I give her kudos because she was like, when I called, it wasn't like no crying or like, are you okay? It was just like, I was like, Mom, I'm over here. I think everything is going good. And I didn't call her as soon as I landed. I probably didn't call her for 2 or 3 days. So imagine a parent now sending a 22-year-old son over there and you don't call her for 2 or 3 days. But I didn't know how to get in touch with her. Like, What was I gonna ask him? Yo, can I use your cell phone, yo? Like, like I gotta call America. Back in '98, using them phones to call America. So it was, like I said, it was. I think my mom and my dad was like super supportive of me going over, but it was a little worrisome and a little scary the first time, at least my first trip over, especially because I had never really heard, or none of us had ever heard of Latvia.
You know, you were talking about the whole tryout experience, and you know, you got to go. Europe is a lot different from college. You got different rules. You got different basketball. My first team was also a tryout experience too, so it was weird. You got to put the ball on the ground first, and all that. So, just talk about like the style of play when you first had this, you know, got started and all that. Like, how was the difference? What was the difference and everything?
See, I always feel bad for dudes that are not point guards that have to try out, right? Because you are depending on somebody else.
Yeah.
I'm not going to front. Where I'm from, I'm like, give me the ball, let's hoop. Like, I didn't care what the rules was. I didn't know what no play was. I was like, I'm doing me. It's a tryout. So I always feel bad for people that have to go over and depend on someone else to make a team, because a lot of times they don't make it, not because they're not talented enough, but the coach doesn't even give them a chance to really make it. Where with me, you come and you're getting a point guard, and the trial was like 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3. Like for us, that's up our alley where we grew up. That's how we grew up, playing 1-on-1, 2-on-2 with your friends. Like I didn't even play 5-on-5 the first like week I was there. Yeah. Everything was like, I guess just seeing how skilled or talented I was. And because I was kind of fast, it made it a lot easier, because y'all know, like back in '98, how fast you think European guards were. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to sit here and lie. I was like, it's going to be easy. I'm going to get like 50 over here. Like, I didn't know I was in the lowest level, but I was like, I'm about to kill this. Whatever Europe is, I'm about to eat. This league about to be easy.
They going to know me. Man, that's funny. So you like you said, you talk about you had a successful season that year. You guys end up winning the championship. So talk about that season, and talk about, like you said, like, you know, just winning your first year out, you win the title. Like, what was that experience? And then, you know, going back home that next summer, like, you know, what were you telling your friends and your family about, you know, about your first year overseas?
So winning the championship was kind of cool, because there was another team called Ventspils, and they were like the two best teams. So it was Riga, Latvia, and it was Ventspils. And they had two dudes that were a little bit more known. Ted Jeffries went to Virginia, and a guy like Lou Sims went to NC State. So they were on our team. So I was really the only American on our team, because they kept changing the other guys. So Dan Kraft got like let go, Jamal Morgan, Vincent Knowles, and I think I finished my season with a guy named Alex Sturms from Jersey, a white kid. So it was like there was a revolving door. So just being on that team, to me, gave me the dynamics of like, no one spoke English. The coach didn't speak English, and one of the players did all the translating. So I always look at it like, I'm blessed, because what if that dude didn't like me? The coach could have been saying, yo, go out there, go left, and he could have been telling me like, go right. And now the coach is like, I can't play him. So I'm like, when I say things fell into place for me, and I was truly blessed, like I really mean that, because I don't speak Latvian, so I didn't know what was going on. But I knew the team was competitive. I knew the coach was famous. His name was Christos Volters. I knew he was famous and known, and I really just wanted a chance to play. So that all kind of came into place. We won the championship. And overseas, which is different probably now, is like the game is really global. Like when CSKA wins or when Barcelona wins, like everybody in America knows. They're like when you're on those top teams. Even on these small teams now, like nobody really cares who won in Sweden. Like, let's be real. Like, I was in Latvia. Nobody cared. Like, I didn't really care. I was like, man, like, when am I going home? Like, can I get my last check? And can I go home, right? But I'm just being real. Like, I knew I wasn't at the highest level, because I had been over there a year, but early on, I didn't know. But when I came home, the funny thing about money is when you only have a little bit of money, you really do think you have a lot of money. Right? But you don't realize you got just a little bit of money. Yo, I probably came home with like 15 G's, right? I thought I was balling.
Blew it all. Where y'all want to go? It's on me. It's on me.
Y'all got it. Groceries.
I'm not lying, bro. Like, I literally was broke by like July. I got home like June 15th, July 4th. I was out. I was tapped out, dog. Like, I really thought, like, you just don't realize it. You know what I mean? Like, you think this little bit of money is gonna go a long way, because when you go home, when you come back home, you don't have responsibilities. Like, I didn't have kids at the time. I didn't have my own crib. I didn't have my own car. I told you I got my license at 21, so I didn't have a car. So everything was still like on my mom and you know, on my older brother. So I just thought it was like, man, I'm just live. But that second year, I shaped up a little bit. But my first summer home was really just like, I play overseas. I'm trying to move up, but I didn't come home to fanfare. I didn't come home to being embarrassed either. Like, I was like, yo, I think I got a chance to move up. I was a little worried because I didn't have an agent. I didn't know where my next job would be coming from, but they had offered me a chance to come back. I told them I didn't really want to unless I had to, but I would let them know by August. So really it was just, man, that first year, it seemed like it went so fast because you're over there, you're home, and before you know it, you broke. So you like, shit, I gotta go overseas, dog.
I gotta ask you real quick. Everybody, when they first make their little piece of change, they always splurge and get themselves like one little thing. I know for me, Kyle makes fun of me all the time. I was in Vegas, I was a hot shot, whatever. I bought a pair of $600 Balenciagas.
Two pair, bro.
Two pair, bro. That was like $1,300.
But Jay, the thing about it is, like, you know, he had the shoe box, he had the bag they came in, and he had them both on the end of his bed. So you walk in his room, he got the two shoes lined up like his bed. I think he is. He think you Mayweather or something. Like, what's going on?
You living, baby. Tell him you living. Tyler, tell him you living, man. That's all I was. Oh, man, I'm trying to think. Honestly, that money went so fast, I probably didn't even buy myself nothing sweet, dog. Like, my second year, I know I did, but my first year, like, when you come from where I come from, like, your mom needs something, you give it to her. You know what I'm saying? Your cousin needs something, you give it to him. So I don't even think I had that type of money really to be able to do all that. And I don't come from, like, y'all coming from Jersey, New York, like, fashion is all that was popular with y'all. For us, it was just like, yo, I got some jeans and t-shirt, so good. Like, I got, you know, Jay's was always in, but I really wasn't that type of dude back then. So it was just more like, man, I'm coming home, I'm trying to have fun. And I think the fun part is probably what got me going out, taking 6, 7 people with you. Bruh, you got 15, like, literally, dog, you got 15 G's, like, really. That you gotta, like, you don't got nowhere to live, nowhere to eat. Like, literally, when I came up, where was I taking her? Like, straight, my mom's basement? Bro, I'm 23. Like, my mom had rules, like, you ain't taking nobody upstairs. You come in, you either going to the basement or you in front of everybody on the couch in the living room. So I'm like, bruh, like, I just, young and stupid, man, but I was living. I thought I was living.
All right, so you talk about you didn't have an agent your first few years over there. So how did the Belgium deal come about? Did you seek that out yourself, or somebody approached you about it?
Nope, it's crazy. A guy named Mr. Petrie, I don't even know his last name, the same way I don't know Mr. Rauno's first name. This guy named Mr. Petrie called me and said there was a tryout in Belgium. They were rebuilding. They had spent a lot of money the last few years, a team called Oostende. They had spent a lot of money, and they just didn't achieve what they wanted. So they wanted to start fresh, start young. And he was like, hey, it's going to be a deal for $5,000 a month. So that's double what I made my first year. So you know what I was saying. But the crazy thing, and this is when I say, wow, I always say when I'm like, yo, I'm blessed. Literally, I had to go over July 10th to start trying out. So I was broke by July 4th. By July 10th, I was going to try out. So it's like, even though I had no money, I didn't have to be at home with no money. Like, it was just like, yo, you got to go try out for this team. They'll give you $2,000 the first month. And if you make it, then you'll get your $5,000 a month. I'm like, I'm in. Like, I'm at the crib with no money. Like, all right, but how does God work that? Everybody always goes over in August. they called me to come trial in July, and they're gonna give me $2,000 to trial.
That's crazy. Everything just kind of like everything worked out. Like everything just
everything worked out. Yep. So going to Belgium was cool. Belgium wasn't. It was one of the. I love Belgium. Let me tell you, I would have stayed there forever if they would have re-upped me after my second year. So my first year, Kyle will be able to know this because he won everywhere he went. My first year, right? Right. My first year, we lost in the championship. The only championship I've ever lost in a domestic ever in my career. The only championship I ever lost was my first year in Belgium.
Say that again.
Right, exactly.
The domestic league, the only championship I've ever lost in a domestic league was that second year.
Oh, got it. I didn't hear you. I was making sure. I was just
no, I lost a lot of championships. The ones you won, I lost. You good, man. Like, I'm gonna pay my respects. I'm just saying, don't you try to throw me out there like you got
no.
too. Hey, my man out there with the trophy going to Jordan. Like, don't do me like that, bro. Don't do me like that. I got you, man. You the Don.
My bad,
Don, man.
Truth. Back to the truth. My bad.
So that was the only championship I lost in the domestic league. I didn't know that was going to be that happen, but Mike Uger, Lou Rowe, Roger Huggins, I remember all the dudes on that team. They beat us in the finals.
Lou Rowe from around our way. He from Atlantic City.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I didn't, honestly, when we lost, I didn't have an agent. But when we lost, they were like, you want to come out? I'm like, I'm coming back. They were like, well, we only going to give you this. I didn't even care what they paid me. They were like, oh, we'll just give you $7 a month. I was like, all right. Because I just wanted to win. Like, for me, I've always been about, like, I can't leave unfinished. Like, I want to win everywhere I go. I want to win. I didn't have an agent, so I wasn't trying to figure out what was the best place for me. It's like, I lost here. So who's going to want me? I just lost. Right. So I was, whatever y'all want to pay me to come back, I'm coming back. And that was the best decision I ever made because the next year we got to play in the Super League back then it was Super League A and B. That was the EuroLeague. Yeah. And we were the first Belgium team to play our way into that. So, I mean, everything just worked out. I got to play against Efes and Maccabi and all the big-time teams that I never heard of when I was in Latvia. My second year in Belgium, it's like, we walking in there and it's like, I'm the man on our team and I got to kind of really, really show and prove what I could do. And that's probably why I was able to take that next jump to Greece after that, is because I got to play against all these other high-level players.
You talk about Greece, so talk about a little bit about like what Ike was back then and the fans and if you people that don't know, they're famous. Like Ike fans are famous for being very fanatic. So talk about your experience, going to Athens and then after being in Riga and after being in Oostende. Talk about, that experience, being in Athens and playing EuroLeague for, not the first time, but, this is like a first, real big EuroLeague club. So talk about that.
First, I'll say I played stepchild to his team, Olympiacos. So if you know anything about Greece, he's saying this because there's two teams that are on the same level and then everybody else is. Kyle was on the two teams that are on the same level, Olympiacos and Panathinaikos. Me, myself, I was on the lower tier team. So I'm still behind this dude with chips and with levels to this. So my little story will be coming to Greece, it was a little different. I didn't know much about Greece, so it's not like I knew like Panathinaikos was this and Olympiacos was this. I really didn't know that. I was coming to Greece because it was the best opportunity to me to be able to show that I could play at this level. I had never played at that level before. I was excited about the opportunity. For the first time in my career, I didn't have to try out, so I was excited about that. And it was my first time making six figures. And it was make 150. I was, living the life. So, so getting over there, I didn't know like the Ike fans were like real fanatical or anything, but after my first game, real game, we lost in a cup. And they were talking like in Greece back then, you used to play the cup early in the year. Like you play early and then you played the finals later or whatever, but early you play your playing games. We had lost to none other than Tyler's first job, Peristeri. And I'm up on it too. Y'all ain't gonna do y'all homework, brother. So we had lost to Peristeri in the cup, and it was just the rumors was like we got to cut him, like he's not good enough to play at this level. And our Serbian coach, to this day, man, I owe everything to him because he literally was like, I'm not cutting him. Like he's good enough. Like he's going to be better than you guys think. And it's Coach Dragan Sakota.
Yeah.
And he stuck with me. And from there, we took off. Like I was the only American on the team. We had a dude from England, Andrew Betts, but it was just like the perfect fit because we all were young. The difference now with a lot of the elite teams is your best players are usually a little older. So it's more of a professionalism that you learn right off. But on that team, we were all kind of the same age. We were all between like 25 and 27. So we weren't young, but we were all still trying to push our way up and at our career. And I think that's the one blessing that I really loved about Ike that you don't get when you're at CSKA is like everybody's still fighting for money and different things when you got those elite programs, like elite teams. When you're at CSKA, like the difference between 1.5 and 2 million is a lot to them dudes. Like winning and all that is cool, but money is important to them. And they got to feel like you're respecting their, what they're worth by what you pay them. It wasn't like that back then for Ike because you're a lower level team. Everybody knows that those dudes at Olympiacos and Panathinaikos make the most. So you weren't really sitting there like, man, I only make 150 and he made $1 million. Like you didn't care. You wasn't on that team, no way. That's the difference between those bigger teams. And because we were all probably around the close to the same salary, it was real cool the jump, at least for me, throughout that year because they allowed me to get better, which is something they usually don't allow Americans to do overseas. They allowed me to take my steps and my lumps. And when we hit that regular season, man, we ended up in first place. And it was the first time I'd ever been to a game where you are actually throwing, like people were throwing stuff on the court. Like I had never been anywhere in my life where you could throw coins and water bottles. And I was like, I don't know where I'm from. So I got kicked out of the game because I don't know about y'all. Where I'm from, you throw a water bottle at me, I'm told to throw it back. So that thing came down, I'm like, I didn't know, man. I did not know the rules. I didn't know you weren't supposed to throw it back. But I was suspended for a game because I threw the water bottle back. I seen so much crazy stuff in Greece. Like there was a guy named Kakis on our team taking the ball out, and I know in the Rappies, the gym is real small, and they all right up on you. Man, the dude just spit in Kiki's face, like taking the ball out, and I was like, is the game really that serious and you ain't playing? Like, it's one thing to be a fanatical fan, but I feel like that's one of those places, like Greece is one of those places where they cross the line. And it's almost too intense. Like, I love great fans. I love when you're there and they're rocking and they're, like, it's bananas. But I think you do got to draw the line because a lot of times, man, I think they put a lot of players in uncomfortable situations that they shouldn't be in. We just hooping. We all love it. We all want to win, but you gotta stay a fan. And that's one of the places where I was like, this is just different.
So who'd y'all beat in the title that year? I know y'all won the Greek League.
Guess who that team's name is?
Hey, here we go. Here we go.
No, we beat Olympiacos in the championship. It was kind of cool. Because we ended up in first place, we didn't have to fight. Pana had to play Olympiacos in the semis, and Pana had won it all, had won the EuroLeague that year. They won the whole thing. So they had to fight each other. So that was one blessing. We didn't have to go through both teams to win it. And then we played Olympiacos in the finals to win. So it was a great season. I actually signed a 2-year deal there, but y'all know as well as I do, Avrio means you're not getting it. So I didn't get all my money, and that was a blessing for me, but I was a little upset at the time. I mean, that was my first 6-figure deal, and you ain't pay me for 3-4 months. It wasn't the best feeling in the world, but it was the first feeling that let me know, like, that's back to the roots of, like, we played basketball for a long time, and money didn't matter. We just played it because we loved it, and if I do what I'm supposed to do, I'll be taken care of, and that's what happened. I did what I was supposed to do, and CSKA came and took care of me.
You talk about, CSKA, you make that big jump, now you playing for the huge organization. So talk about that whole, how that started off and signing to now go to Russia. Now you go from Latvia to Belgium to Greece, and now you're going to Russia. So talk about that.
CSKA was always known, but CSKA was like wasn't at its peak of where it is now. When I got over there, CSKA was losing. And that was the reason why they were trying to kind of regroup and I guess, like, I don't even know, like, do their image all over again. So they had actually went and got Sergei Kushenko, who used to be up at a place called EuroLeague or something in Perm. They call it Perm, Russia.
Yeah, Perm.
And his team up there had Tyus Edney, Anthony Bowie. So he was, like, really good at being able to build Perm up. And Perm had won the year before. So it had been like 3 or 4 years in a row that CSKA hadn't won it, and that's not known in Russia. Like, if CSKA's not in the championship game, that's, like, not heard of. And it was happening year after year after year for, I think, 4 years. So when I got there, it was like, we're rebuilding, and we wanted to start with some players that weren't, quote unquote, the name players. Another Serbian coach, I had Duda Ivkovic, and he was coming in, and he actually went and got Theos Papaloukas first, because he had his ties to Greece. And of course, you know, Coach had coached there in Greece, and Pops was supposed to be the next young player that was supposed to go to the NBA. So he went and got Pops, and he wanted another American as a point guard. And my coach, I guess, has a relationship with Coach Dakota. And he was like, hey, I'm telling you, you'll like this kid. And of course, Coach Ivkovic was like, he's wild. He's, you know, all that stuff they say about dudes that shoot all the balls. But Coach Dakota was like, I'm telling you, you'll like him. So he was like, he'll take me. He ended up taking me, man. So he took me. And not just that, they signed me for 3 years, like right off the hump.
Really?
Now, I had known what I know now. I wouldn't have signed that cheap-ass deal, but I didn't know.
You probably was like 3 years. Like, you was coming up the year before, like, try it out. So you like, you gonna give me 3 years to play ball? Like,
no lie. And that's really what happened. They gave me 3 years off the hump, and I was like, what? And then, you know, I don't care. They assigned me for 200, 300, and 400. So in my mind, I was like, that's bread. Like, I knew they was paying Chris Gatlin this and Darius and Gala this, I would have been like, hell no. But I
renegotiate.
Yeah, but you see what I said earlier, when you get to those clubs, like, money start mattering. You sign a 3-year deal, you making this, and the dude on your team doing less and not starting, and he making 3 times what you making. That's when I think sometimes those become a little bit of an issue. But it was cool.
You have an agent at this point, or were you still?
I did. I had signed with a guy named Alexander Roskovic. He was Serbian, but he was represented here by SFX. So that was like Michael Jordan's agency with like David Folk, David Ballman, all those guys. But he was the runner over there.
Okay.
He had got me the job in Greece. So my second year in Belgium, I signed at the end of that year with him.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, I signed that 3-year deal, and CSKA is not what it is now. So like, Kushenko was coming in and changing everything, which was cool. The first day we got there, I got there with a guy named Darius Sangala who went to Wake Forest. He had just graduated, and I guess he got drafted, I believe, by the Celtics. And they didn't keep him, so he was coming over. He was trying to get back to the league. Papaloukas was on that team. A guy named Nikos Hadjivirtus, who was also coming from Greece as a shooting guard, was on that team. Chris Gatling from the NBA. It was his first year overseas. He was on the team. And it was just different, man. It was the first time, like, you felt like you were playing pro ball. Like, these are some elite names you're playing with and playing against. And it was a great experience, and a lot of it was because of Sergei. Kushenko really came in, and we met him, and he was like, listen, this is a 3-year thing. We're not expecting to make the Final Four the first year. We want to take steps, but once we get here, we have to stay here. And that was his major thing. Like, we're going to take our steps to get to a Final Four, but once we get here, we're not leaving up here. So just make sure you're committed to that. And to be honest with you, I was super excited. I was like, I hadn't even heard about the Final Four. I'm like, I don't even know what that is for real. Like, I'm just, man, this is what we going for? So that first year was like, it went so quick because I wasn't guaranteed to start. Like, Papaloukas was like, yo, best player gets to start. So I didn't know any of that. And we had just beat Papaloukas and his team at Olympiacos the year before at Ike. So I felt confident I could start and all that, but I didn't know. So everything was like, I like that environment where it's like the best player plays. And because we were all new, and it wasn't like, now you come to CSKA, there's players there that have earned their stripes. If you better, you got to come take that. And not just in practice. These dudes have won championships. that's how I felt once you're there for 3 or 4 years. Young players are coming, they think they know what it takes to be a champion. But until you've done it, don't tell me what you think you could do. Until you've been out here in this fire and you know what I'm saying? You're going to play your role in that fire. And there's one thing I learned real early on is like, at these higher levels, you got to learn like somebody has to sacrifice. And you don't get to choose your sacrifice. See, like you could be a scorer, but your sacrifice might be playing defense. You can't just say, well, I'll just score 3 less points. Like you don't get to choose what your sacrifice is. And that's one thing I learned when I got to Cessna. And that was something I embraced, of course, as we started winning. But my first year was really just like, hey, there's only one ball out there. Somebody got to eat. And it ain't not going to be me. So, so that's how it was. But man, that first year at Cessna was a whirlwind. It was a great experience, great time. Russia was totally different than the basketball. Like Russia, the life was very much like Latvia. Where I stayed at, y'all know Cal got a mansion. I just want to throw that out there before we get started. There's levels to living in Russia. So anybody who's listening to this, Cal is here and I am here. So I want this to be, so when I tell this story, Cal will have never experienced this because there's levels to being to greatness, and he's up here when it comes to greatness, and I'm here. And I'm okay with that. But so let me get back to the story. So I had this little apartment my first year, right? And I didn't know because the American before me had stayed in this apartment. So I just assumed he stayed there, I could stay there. And it was like a high-rise building. And I didn't know, it was a little bit, looked a little sketchy, but I mean, who knows? You know how Russia is, it's dirty, you just don't know what. So we had BMWs the first year. And I was parking outside, and Sergey was like, they had stole the whole bumper and the tires off the car one night.
What?
So I didn't know where I was living at, dog. They stole the bumper and the tires off the whip. So I come downstairs for practice, gone, cuz. Like when I'm saying gone.
Yo, did you freak out? I know you had to be like, yo, what? Like, like somebody played a joke on you or something.
When you took the tires, I knew it was real. See, if it would just been the bumper, I would have been straight. I was like, somebody really took the whip. Like, why'd you just take the car? Like, you could have just took the whip. You took the tires. Bruh. So I get to practice, and he's like, hey, there's a parking garage down that we'll pay for you to park in there every night. So they gave me another car, and I had to park in there. I didn't get a BM. I had a RAV4 this time. I got hustled. I didn't know. See, he don't know nothing about a RAV4. Cal don't know nothing about no RAV4. Levels to this, man. So now I got to park the RAV4 in this parking lot. And between leaving that apartment and going to the lot is like probably like a 40, 50-yard walk. Now, I'm fast forwarding this story because this is what I mean about rushing. I'm walking to the car, and about, I would say a month before there, Victor Alexander was our new American. And he came in, he was like, man, you know you need to carry a shank. And where I'm from, I'm like, carry a shank? He's like, bruh, dog, we in Russia, man, but this is a vet. He's a little older than me. He's like 6, 7 years older than me. He like, man, you better carry your shank. So I'm listening to the OG, I carry a shank. But I'm walking. I am literally walking from my place to this parking garage. 3 dudes walking up, they're walking towards me, I'm walking this way. I don't really know what I didn't think anything. Like back then, just had my headphones on, bopping, walking. They come and like they stop, and I never kept my music up that loud that I ain't hear, but I didn't know what they was doing, but like they start surrounding me. 3 dudes. Now I'm thinking they're probably their 20s. When I say blessed again, dude told me to carry a shank. Man, I pulled the shank out, and there was a dude there throwing this little ball with some spike on it. No lie, I called Vic while I'm in this. I called Vic and was like, yo, I'm surrounded at the spot. Now, y'all know how Russian traffic is. I don't know what Vic did, but he was there. No lie, had to be 6 minutes. Like, he was coming from the other side of Russia. He was there in, like, no lie, 6 minutes. So, no lie, these 3 dudes they talking, saying something in Russian. It's my first year. I don't know what they saying, but I pulled out that blade, and I was like, the dude right there must be the ringleader, so I'm going after him. So if I go after him, then I know I'm good. Like, the other two dudes, so you could tell they were young, though, because if you really wanted some smoke, they would have just came on like, yo, this is what we do.
Right.
But they kind of was, yeah, they was a little hesitant, So, you know, me, I'm like, man, I'm not going to run because then that's going to, you know, we grow up, that's a sign of fear. Like, you running, so I'm like, all right. Man, it seemed like it took 2 days, but literally it was like 5 minutes. And like as soon as I was like, yo, this standoff, I got to go, Vic came running. And you talking about a 6'8", 6'9" dude running. When I say them three dudes scattered so quick, they took off running. To this day, I'm like, man, if Vic had not come and told me to carry his shank, I might have got beat up. It might have been nothing, but what if it was more than that?
Yeah, what if it was something?
That's crazy. That's crazy, man.
Talk about Duda Ikovic, because I played for him too, but I've heard the stories about how he was, you know, back then. You know, talk about him, and then also like I want to mention about Sergey. Like they credit Sergey and Duda like changing everything at Cheska, because like, you know, the locker rooms and, you know, all the facilities and all that stuff. They said, like, so I just want to know, like, from your eyes, was that true? Because before, like you said, you got there first, and they said, like, over that time, like, they all came and they changed everything, the whole program.
I would definitely give the credit to Sergey and Duda. As far as Sergey, he's just he was one of just the best presidents or GMs, however you want to call him, that I've ever played for. Yeah. He wants to win, but he wants to do it the right way. When I know you've all been on different teams where they say they're going to treat you like family, but you know it ain't really true. It's like the cool saying that everybody says, we're family. Like, he really meant that. So when I got into another jam with the police, like, we got drivers. Like, they say I was the one that started, like, the Americans getting drivers in Russia. Like, I had a little incident.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you.
So, like, we got into an incident with the police, and, like, the next day, Kushenko was like, I'm looking for the guy's badge number. I know it wasn't your fault. You get to pick of these 3 drivers to ride you around for a week, pick one. Like, it was really treated like family. It wasn't like you got into this jam, I don't know what we were going to do. It was like, no, you'll never get into that jam again. So I definitely say Sergey, when he said your family and he's going to treat you like family, that was very real. And on the flip side, he's like, look, I'm going to do all I got to do for you off the floor. So you got to give me everything you got on it. And my thing is, if somebody commits to me like that, you ain't got no choice. Like, you do start throwing money and all that stuff out the window because you like, man, this dude going to give me his best. I ain't got no choice but to give him mine. So Sergey, man, he was great for me. Duda, everybody act like Duda was super hard. Outside of Christmas, man, that's the only time I ain't really rock with Duda because everybody got to go to Serbia for Christmas. I ain't really feeling that, man. Like, you get to go home for 7 days and we got to come be in a hotel and hang with you for 7 days to train? Like, we all sacrificing, baby. Like, so, no lie, quick story on Duda. Me and Duda used to be like that was my guy. Like, he was the one, like, he was the first one that told me, like, I don't care what you do on offense. If you play defense, I'll let you do what you want. So I was like, cool. I never played with a coach like, you better just lock down and I'll let you eat. I'm like, this is my type of coach. The second year, man, mind you, Marcus Brown and Victor were both older than me. They both were the vets and the OGs of our team. But they suckered me and asked Duda to let us go home for Christmas, right? So they was like, yo, Jay, man, you know, Duda like you, go ask him to get 2 days for Christmas. So you thinking, these dudes are older dudes, but they suckered the young dude into being like, yo, so I go in there to coach, and I'm like, Duda, like, can we go ahead and, like, at least get a day or 2 at home for Christmas, right? Now, I shouldn't have said that, but I should have said, like, how many days can we get at home? But I was like, hey, can we get a day or 2 at home? And he was like, I'll give you 48 hours, right? That's what he said. So I'm like, man, 48, like, who go home for 48 hours from here from Russia, bro? But like, I didn't say that, right? So I go back and tell them, like, yo, I couldn't get everything we wanted, but we got 48 hours. So me listening to them, they was like, well, once we go home, let's come back when we want. I'm like, cool, let's come back when we want, right? Now, they think, now, we go home and we're supposed to be back 48 hours. We don't come. We come back like probably 2 days after that. So we come back after like 3 or 4 days, and we get back, and Duda just laying to me like I was the ringleader. I didn't even, like, them dudes is the one that was like, so he made me run the stairs. He was making me do all this extra work. He made me come in, like, if we had practice out like at 9, he'd be like, you have to be here at 6:30 in the morning. I was like, bruh, I wasn't the ringleader. It's like, them dudes, man, they set me up. I will never forget that. Like, they threw me under the bus. And that was me and Duda's like first clash. And it seemed like after that, we just couldn't get back on that right track, man. Because Duda, I'm not gonna put a name out here, but Duda has smacked the player in our locker room, right? Like at halftime. He's at a game, and Duda, I mean, the dude is a little soft, but like I ain't never seen nobody just bop like in your face like I don't know about y'all, but I was a little shook. I was like, this coach smacked the grown man.
Hey,
like, this is a grown man.
Same situation.
I had never seen that before. So that third year when the pressure was on us, because the Final Four was in Moscow, we were in a cup in EuroLeague, and we just weren't playing that great. Honestly, I thought I was playing all right, but I had done something before the half that he didn't like. So he came in the locker room and he just, doing, you know how Duda is, he's doing all the screaming and all that. But then he came towards my locker and it's Victor's right here, I'm here, I think Marcus Brown is here and the rest of the team, whatever. This was our second year. And he stands over me. Now, I don't know about y'all. If you see somebody get smacked one time, you ain't going to be the one. So I stood up like, bruh, like, I ain't that dude. And he was going to point, and I put my hand up, like, put my thing up like this, and then Vic and all them and Kushinka jumped in between. And it was like, after that incident, it was like me and Duda never could see eye to eye ever again. And I played for him a whole nother year. And when I see him now, it's love. But we could never get back on track at CSKA. It just seemed like he almost wanted to win in spite of me, but he couldn't. So it was just like we couldn't get back on track. But it was all because me not being mature enough to go to him and say, look, coach, I wasn't trying to stand up to disrespect you. Like, I just ain't never been smacked before. And if my daddy ain't gonna smack me, I sure as hell ain't gonna let you smack me. But it just caught me off guard, man. And me and Duda like had butted heads after that. And it was no like disrespect. Like, I didn't disrespect Duda. I thought he was a great coach, good man. But I see you smack somebody, you standing over me like, what you gonna do? I'm like, yeah, you ain't gonna smack me because I don't care about none of this. None of this basketball, contract, none of that. We gonna have to try.
All right, so we gotta get back to the court, man.
My bad.
Just a little bit.
Yep.
So your first year with CSKA, you led the team just about every statistical category. You had a Final Four run and ended up losing to Barcelona. Kind of revamped the team the following year. They brought in, like you mentioned, Marcus Brown. And you guys had 2 more Final Four runs. So let's talk about you and Marcus's dynamic. I think at the time he was the highest paid player in Europe. Talk about how you guys gelled and how it was playing with him.
Marcus was one of those players, if you played with him, you like him, but if you play with on another team, you like, man, he messing up the game. That's Marcus. Like, that's Marcus. Like, he had before flopping became like super popular, he had all of that down pat. Like, he could draw fouls unlike any American I've ever seen play overseas. Like, he got every call, and he always had this scowl on his face, like he was tough. But I'm like, man, that dude ain't tough. Like, y'all scared of this dude? Like, he ain't tough. Like, I just didn't understand, like, the fear they had of him. But as far as his talent and skill, he was a really good player, man. Just he could do a little bit of everything. I think at that time, I think we all get into being a little bit selfish. I think at times he got a little bit selfish, as we all do. We all get a little selfish at times. I think he's a little selfish at times. And us not getting over the hump had nothing to do with him. I think when you're on a team like that, and especially that third year when we lost in Moscow, like, we had won 50-something games in a row. Like, we had never done that. Like, no other team had done anything like that. We had 2 starting fives. We had dudes that played in the league was coming off the bench. Like, we was totally stacked. But we didn't, like, one thing I do like about Cal, and I'm not just saying this because we're on the phone, is, like, your appetite for winning got to stay up here even when you going through the process. We was winning games, but we wasn't hungry no more. Like, we was just beating teams. We like, all right, we here, knock them off. All right, that's the team, we gonna beat them. Okay, who's next? But we wasn't hungry. We wasn't out there like, we ain't got no chip yet. This is our chance to win a championship. And that's different. And I think because we weren't hungry is why we got knocked off by a team that wasn't better than us, but they had dudes that could hoop. Like Louis Scola could hoop. Cornell David played in the NBA, can hoop. Magiauskis played in the NBA, can hoop. Calderon and Prigioni played in the NBA, can hoop. Like, all them dudes could hoop. Tiago Splitter was coming off the bench. He could hoop. But we were the better team, but we didn't lose to some suckers, but they were hungry. And when you get on the court, only 5 people can play. And I just feel like they just wanted it more. And it was at our spot. And I think we always just thought, like, you know how when you play in Russia, we eventually going to win. Yeah. Just give it time. Just give it time. And it just never happened. But that team, man, one of the best teams I ever played on. But I would also say it was a team that when you walked in, you just felt like we was stacked. You wasn't going to beat us. And we rested on our laurels, and it got a lot of people a lot of people got fired and got let go of because of it.
Going into that, I know you, going to next year, you got Messina coming in as a new coach, and then also they signed Trajan Lander. So, with that new team, new coach, how was that experience?
Me and Messina did not see eye to eye, my guy.
Yeah, man. I heard the story.
You ain't the first one to say that.
Like he was, for his first years there, like Messina was like, he was like Duda, but I heard Messina, like, he was like in your face, like it's either his way or like that's it.
Or no way.
Yeah.
Like, I will say this too, though. Messina may be that hard, but there is another side to him that it is only because he really does want to win. Yeah. Sometimes coaches they get in their own way as if you don't want to win as bad as they do. Like, no, man, I want to win as bad as you do. So you ain't got to all that screaming and do it this way. Like, I'm not doing it your way because I don't want to do it that way. Like, you're not out here playing. And sometimes they think it's just as simple as how they say it that you can do it. And Messina, I'm not lying. Like, he would be like, we're going to run 3 dribbles here and throw. I'm like, yo, my man is on this side, so I got to take 1 dribble here and spin back. That's 5 dribbles. I said 3 dribbles here. No, man, like, at one point, I ain't going to front. I was like, you need another point guard. Mm-hmm. And to his credit, he took me off the point. He moved Dave Vanderpool to point, moved me to the wing, and we won a chip. So, it, whether it was me having too much of an ego or him being too prideful, it worked. Even though we didn't see eye to eye, like, I did want to win. It wasn't that I didn't want to win, but I felt like he is better, in my opinion, at coaching guys that aren't as talented. He feels like, because he has more control. See, when you can control a guy, it's like, oh, you're not that talented, so you're going to do it my way because you can't do it another way. And sometimes I would go out and do stuff just in spite of him. So we would be watching film, and he would be sitting there, and he'd be like, here goes JR, bullshit shot, but he makes it. So everybody says, street ball. Like, that's what he do. In front of the whole team, dog. Like, in front of the whole team. Like, I was like, yo, this guy. But like I said, there's another side to him. I got it. Over the course of 3 or 4 years, he made me a better player. I learned to read the game better. I learned to slow down. I learned to come off pick and rolls like, yo, first big, second here, third, 1 more dribble, get into the lane. You got the opposite corner. You got the bounce to the big. I didn't know those things. I was just like, turn the corner. If he ain't there, get to the bucket. Like, if he there, pass it. You know what I'm saying? But I think he slowed the game down for me and did a lot of things to help me. So I think he's a phenomenal coach. But we did butt heads. But when he came, we won 2 chips, and we played in 4 or 5 straight finals because of him.
Yeah, I was the same way when because he brought me to Cheska, and at first it was like more or less like, because I heard stories about him, so I wasn't intimidated, but I kind of already knew what to expect. But the thing that got me was like he's literally like almost like a professor of the game. Like, he made me see the game and read the game differently than I ever seen it before. It was like, me, I was like, get the ball. If I got an opportunity to go, I'm gonna beat my man, I'm just gonna go. But he was like, nah, if you do it this way, if you drive off his hip and you come here, or if you post up here, or if you set the pick this way, you roll this way. I've never seen it that way, but like the 1 year I spent with him, like, he made me like
a completely different player. There was like so much here. Like I understand why he's so hard, because he's hard for a reason. Because like I think he cares about the game. He cares about his players, and he can sometimes see your potential before you can even see it.
I totally agree with that. That's why you still there. He's seeing your potential before anybody else did. I'm with you, brother. I ain't gonna tell you no lies.
You got to talk about that EuroLeague Championship, man. Winning that championship and being able to, the way y'all celebrated and everything else. Just talk about all that.
It's probably a little different maybe for Trajan and Messina because it was their first year there with us. But for me, it was like the monkey off my back, man. Like, you get there 3 straight years and you lose the way we did with talented teams and all that. To be on a team that's not that as talented but focused and together, it was like a weight lifted off for me. Like, I played a lot better in the semis because I feel like that's the pressure game, right? Like, that's the hardest game to play. The finals is the easy game to play. Like, this is it. But that semi, man, like, that game is so hard to play because if you lose, like, it's over. Like, what happens tomorrow doesn't even matter to anyone. So just getting that monkey off our back and getting to the finals was part of it. But then winning the finals and then against a good team like Maccabi they were up here back then. They had Anthony Parker. They had Maceo Baskin. They had Nikola Vucic. They had Will Solomon. Like, they had a team, and it was like, if we can beat them, we the best team in Europe. And so that combined with just getting the monkey off our back, being there 4 straight years was like a huge, huge win, big celebration. I had a great time, man. I'm not going to front. That might have been the first time I ever cried. No, the second time I cried at CSKA, but that's the first time I cried where I was like crying because I was happy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I cried at CSKA my first Final Four in Barcelona because I don't know about y'all, and I know Tyler, you've never been to a Final Four, so you might not know, but you may have played at a level where this has happened to you.
Yeah.
Have you ever ran out of the arena and seen 20,000 people and be like, I can't believe I'm here?
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't believe I was there. Like, I wasn't crying because I was like, oh, we lost. I was like, man, there's all these people. Like, they came to see me play. Like, that touched me my first year. I had never played in front of that type of all these cameras, and not just like in a Panathinaikos game, but like all these cameras is there from all over the world coming to see a Final Four, and they come to see you. Like, I was in tears, bro. But those were the 2 times I cried at CSKA, man.
You're stuck in the moment. Like, you run out, you just like, you become a fan for a second. You just like, you get around and everything. You gotta almost like catch yourself. I felt that like my first like 2 Final Fours. I was like, yo, like, I think that's the reason why we won it. But I played terrible my first Final Four because I was so like wrapped into like, the atmosphere and the environment that I forgot I was like, it was the game was the most important thing.
I feel you though. I do. I feel you, bro. I do. Like, it's amazing because we don't come from that. I tell people, you go to Duke, you're supposed to be in the Final Four. You go to Michigan's like, that's nothing to you. Like, you got cameras in your face, USA day-to-day papers, all that, all the time. From where we come from, like, man, you got one radio station there at the game. You good.
We got to talk about, because I always wanted to know how this happened. Now, how did you get approached to play for the Russian national team? And, kind of give me the story behind that, because like it's only you and Becky Hammond, right? Have only been the two Americans that have had that opportunity. So let's talk about that. Like, people
think it's an elaborate story. When I tell you this story, you're gonna be like, man, I wasn't even excited. No lie. Back then, the national team used to play in November and like February or something like that. They had like a 10-day things where like they would play to qualify. So during that time, during those 10 days, we would still be there practicing. So I'm at the arena watching the Russian national team play. Kushenka there is my agent is here. Now, mind you, I thought Kushenka was playing, but literally, he literally said, man, we need a point guard. Would you play on the national team? I was like, yeah. Seriously, that was it. Word. A year later, he calls me at 9 in the morning and says, a year later, not the next day, a year later, he calls me and says, hey, you know what? I thought about what we talked about. There'll be a car to pick you up in an hour to take you to get your passport. No lie. Like, it's not like I'm telling you, like, I'm not lying. It's not like we was like, this is what we gonna do. No, he literally was. We were at a game. I'm sitting there with my agent. He's like, we need a point guard. Would you come next? I was like, yeah, of course. Why not? A year later, don't talk about nothing. A year later, he calls me like, there'll be a car in an hour to pick you up so you can go get your Russian passport.
Hey, man. Bless footsteps, man.
It's real, man. Like, Kushik, that literally was all, whatever his mastermind. That's why I say I owe a lot to Sergey. He was mastermind. He didn't talk me through it. He didn't say, this is how we're going to plan it. And then when I got the passport, I walked into his office. He was like, I just got off the phone with Putin. He says, represent the country. He said, but honestly, I want you to focus on CSKA. He said, we'll think about it. If you don't want to play, I won't force you to play. But he was like, what I want you to do is this will help us, because back then you only allowed 2 Americans on each team. Not like now where you had 3 or 4. You only allowed 2. So he was like, this will help us. And they were just putting in that Russian rule. You had to have 2 Russians on the court at all times. Yeah. So it was like, I could help us in the Russian league, but I could also help us in Europe because I would be playing as a Russian. And we can go get another American.
But we definitely got to talk about the 07 European Championships. I guess that was your first stint with the Russian national team. You had David as the head coach. Team was led by you, AK-47, Victor Kryapu. Let's talk about that, making it to the championship game, and then your Jordan moment in that championship game, getting that game-winning shot, getting the game-winning shot.
That'll be the one thing I'll take. I'll take my one Jordan moment. Well, this is what's crazy. Everybody only remembers that, but I started playing with them in 2005.
Okay.
So I played my first year in 2005 in Serbia, and we had lost. We played terrible. And to be honest with you, it was a Russian coach. It was just a mess. And honestly, being real, and AK-47 will tell you, he was the coach that year. No lie. He practiced when we wanted to practice. When he said we was doing something, we did something. And that was what it was. And we underachieved. And that first year I played, it was really hard for me because 2 of the captains that were older left the team when they realized I was playing in 05. So my intentions wasn't to have nobody leave or nothing. And for the 2 dudes that were leading the Russian national team to say they're retiring, or I knew it was because of me. And I knew that that wasn't my intention. I didn't even ask to play. They asked me to play. So that kind of hurt me a little bit. And I think that kind of affected everybody's play. Because, them dudes were friends. Don't act like them Russian players, they all were together. They're their friends. And now I'm here. It's like, cool, he's not this loud, boisterous guy, but it's like still 2 of my friends are not here.
Yeah.
So the first year we struggled. And then 06, Black came, and nobody remembers you have to qualify to play in the European Championship. Yeah. You don't just go get right in. So in 06, AK and them, they didn't play. So Black calls me and is like, yo, I need you to play. And I'm like, after 05, I'm out. I ain't playing. I'm cool. Coach, you cool? I don't know you. I didn't know Coach Black at that time. I knew he was a coach, but I never played for him. I'm like, yeah, that's cool, but I'm cool. He's like, think about it, man. I really need you. Please play. Our trainer who was training me at the time, Darius Newsom, was like, hey, man, you should play. Why not? You scared? And I was like, scared? It's I'm out. When people just know what buttons to push, he was like, you scared? I was like, scared? I'm on. So I called Black, I'm coming. We won 5 games. And mind you, I didn't kind of want to come because I was having my first child with my wife at this point, my girlfriend at the time, but my wife. Now, she was pregnant and she was due. And during that time, I'm like, man, Coach Black, I'm telling you, if I come over and I play, I'm letting you know, if she say I'm out, ain't no. So mind you, we won the first 5 games and she called I'm going to the room now. So I left. I didn't even play the last game, and we lost. But we went 5-1 and qualified for the European Championship, and that led to what happened in 07.
Okay.
Yeah. So with 07 with Coach Black, man, he came in, and what I respect about Coach Black is that he didn't come in and say AK-47, you're over here and everybody over here. He this is how I'm a coach. Either you with it or you not. So if you don't want to be a part of it, you weren't a part of it last year, cool. But if you want to be a part of it, you got to do it my way. And honestly, took AK's credit. He was like, cool. This is what I want to do. I want to win. And he bought in. And I know y'all can all attest to this, being on a team where you don't know what's going on, but you know something magical's happening as the games are going. You just hooping and you I don't know why this is happening to us. Everything just going your way. That's how that was in 07. even though we had lost to Spain by like 20 earlier in that thing, earlier in the tournament, we left there like, oh, we missed some shots. They not that good. Like, it just seemed like we never lost sight of, yo, we're better than them. And people don't understand. In that preseason, we lost to France by 40 with Tony Parker, Ronnie Tariaba. We lost about 40 in France. We was like, yo, we don't want to play them. So when we had them in the quarters, we was like, dang, the only team we don't want to play, we got to play them. And we went, we played them, we beat them. And everybody was rolling. I ain't going to say it was just me. AK was hooping out of this world. Anton Ponkershoff was balling. Like everybody, everybody played a big role. Zahar Pashut, and like a lot of dudes played big during that time. Savashenko ball. Like, we just had a good team, a good mix of guys. Nobody was selfish. No one cared about scoring. I think that's the difference between like playing for CSKA and playing for the national team. It's such a small time that you just want to win. Like, you throw numbers and all that out the way because those numbers are not going to affect your salary. Those numbers are not going to affect how people view you. If you win, that's the only thing people care about because you're representing the name that's in front of you, not behind you. When you're playing for CSKA, to a degree, you got to represent the name behind you because if not, they won't pay you. Yeah. You'll be quickly to be like, you know what, I got to get rid of you. Somebody else got to come in and do better. But for the national team, you represent the country, they can't cut you in 5 games. You got 5 games, that's it. Or 6 games, that's it. It's not like a whole season. So that's the one, I think, positive of the national team that helps the team stay together because it's like, yo, we just in this for 7 games. Do we really care as long as we win for 7 games? And we bought in to what Black was doing and getting to that finals. I would say the semis was the tougher game for the Russians because we were playing Lithuania, and that rivalry is a little different, as you guys know, like that Russian-Lithuania clash. Because they were always better with Sarunas and Linus Kleza and Darius Ngala, the hype was more for them to beat us. So I think the Russians came out more nervous than me because I was like, I really ain't Russian. Like, let's hoop. Like, I don't care what these dudes are saying in y'all language. Like, I don't understand what they're saying. So I feel like I played a lot more relaxed that game and probably played better than a lot of our other players because it was like a more intense game. And then the finals, our back was against the wall. Like, we weren't supposed to win. How much pressure is it when you're supposed to lose to the home team? Like, they had Paul and Mark and Calder. They got all these dudes, and you like, okay, we supposed to lose, so cool. Let's just go out and have fun. And Coach Black, to his credit, he coached like he knew we were going to win the game before the game. And I respect that about him. Like, he didn't come in and like, hey, we got to do this and this and this to win. He was like, we're going to do this, this, and this and win. You know how you before the game, you were putting stuff, you're like, hey, if we do these things, we can win. If you do, he's like, when we do this, we're going to win. When we do, like, we didn't go out there like, yo, if we win, we was like, well, we're going to beat them. Yeah. And that's how I played out. And I give a lot of credit to Coach Black for that. And people will say, like, my Jordan moment, some of that was Coach Black. I had missed like 2 or 3 shots in a row, right before that. And we're coming off on a timeout, and Coach Black was like, yo, what you eat for breakfast this morning? I was like, man, what you talking about? He was like, whatever it is, don't eat that shit again. And just start laughing, bro. In the finals. Like, it wasn't like we was really just hooping. I'm like, this dude asked me what I eat for breakfast. I just missed 2 easy shots. I'm like, man, know what the fuck? He like, don't eat that shit again, laughing. Like, I was like, yo, it just broke me down. I'm like, man, this is just basketball. Like that's how, but I give him that credit because that moment was so much. And when you miss it, you know, you like, especially shots that you know you can make, you know, that could just be frustrating. But he literally just thought about me and really not the team. But he was thinking about the team. Like, we need him to win. Yeah. And he just said it that quick, man. So kudos to Coach Black, man. He did a great job with that team. And, man, I'm forever grateful to Coach Black, too. I rocks with Coach Black.
So after you made that shot, you guys win the European Championship. Did you feel like, you know, at that moment that, like, you know, you stand on the podium, you hear the Russian national anthem, did you really feel like the country and the team and, you know, everybody, like, from that moment on, kind of embraced you?
For sure. I would say that whole tournament. The final, I think, was letting them know that I was in this the same way they were. But throughout that tournament, man, you know how Russian fans are. They're going to show you love. Because I didn't speak the language and I don't speak the language, I always thought there was going to be a disconnect because I was playing for the national team. But I think that's kind of what they knew I was never going to step outside of that. Like, I wasn't trying to be the center of attention. I wasn't trying to take anybody's shine. And I think that made the team comfortable. I never tried to be anything who I wasn't. And I'm like, look, I just want to play basketball. I want to win. And I think they realized that. And I think they embraced me, but they embraced that whole team.
So let's talk. So the European Championships was in September. You guys went there, handled business, and then you had to report back to Moscow. Y'all made another run to the Final Four and then ended up winning the championship again that year. So talk about that season, that year, winning your second EuroLeague title.
That's a lot of chips.
They had enough. Oh, and we got to tell everybody, like, we talking a lot of EuroLeague stuff right now. But you was winning the Russian league every year, so them chips was definitely added up.
Look, we can talk about the chips, but we know the big chips is the one that matter. And the dude that's right there, he can pull out 4, 5, 6 of them things. Look, my little chips and the little bitty Russian rings they get. He got them big old, you know what I mean, big old rocks. But I'm gonna leave this be for now. 07 to me, that was probably my best year playing basketball as a pro. Like, it wasn't the numbers. It was just that my focus was like, I feel like I never missed a beat throughout that whole season. Even getting back with our team, I felt like I stayed in rhythm. The weirdest thing about that year, I think, was Coach Messina was going through a lot because his brother had passed away. His brother was sick, and he was going through a lot that year, so he wasn't around the team as much. And when he was there, you could tell something was bothering him. You know what I mean? You could tell there was something on his heart and on his mind. His brother's dying. Like, that's not an easy thing for any brother. I've never had to experience that. I have no idea what he was going through. So for him to still stay committed to the team was something that I took personal. Like, he should have just walked away. Like, this is his brother, man. Like, he coming back and forth to games, and it was like, my job was to make sure we stayed focused to, like, our goal is this. This dude is doing this for us. Forget our personal feelings about him. Forget how he feel. His brother is dying, and we up here, like, we got to represent him, period. And it's funny because me and Messina really never had too many heart-to-hearts. Like, I'm not going to say like we had all these talks, but we didn't. But before the Final Four that year, he put his arm around me. He was like, you'll never win an award. You'll never get all the things you deserve. But I just want to say I thank you. And the only way we're going to win this is if you play your best basketball. And me and Messina had never had a heart-to-heart. So when he put his arm around me at CSKA before we left and said that, I ain't gonna front. I went to Prague. Like, I went to Madrid. I went to Madrid like, woo, it's on. I feel like that's all I needed. You know what I'm saying? Like, I finally almost like had his approval. Like, look, I know all the things aren't gonna go your way, but I need you to do this for me. And I was like, we not losing. Like, that first game, we were struggling. I wasn't going to let us lose. I ain't going to fear they was going to have to kill me before we lost that game.
I know outside of the season, you got a chance to play in an exhibition Team USA. I know it was guys like Kobe, Bron, Melo, D-Wade, CP3, Chris Bosh, J-Kid, Dwight Howard, all those type of guys. Talk about that experience, watching those guys and seeing them on TV and finally being able to play against them. And also, but I know Kobe was guarding you majority of the game. Talk about that.
And that experience was super unique in so many ways, right? So we come out before the game. I'm not going to even go through all the other stuff. We come out before the game, and they know AK-47. They know Kriapa. They know Monia. They play in the league. But you would have thought they would at least been like, what's up to me or something. Like, they act like they didn't walk right past me, bro. I was like Melo played, no disrespect. Melo played the shit out of me. Like, I was like, hey, what's up, man? That dude, like, literally looked at me, didn't head nod me or nothing, just kept walking. I was like, fuck them dudes. Like, honestly, that's how I felt right there. Like, it didn't matter. Nothing else that happened. I was like, oh, man, F them. Like, I don't care where they from. I don't care what's on the front of their chest. I don't know none of them. Like, but I thought because they was, you know how they do, he in with AK and all that. So I just thought it was going to be a different experience. It was a preseason tournament game. Like, I didn't think it was like, but they were focused. And I'm going to give them their props. They was like, they beating everybody by 40 from day one when they get there to whenever it's over. but that was their focus. But I thought it would have been a little bit more love, but it wasn't. But it's crazy is like when you earn somebody's respect, right? Like at the end of the game, Kobe was talking to me. I went to lunch the next day with LeBron at California Pizza. Like, it's just different. Like, you have to, it was like I had to earn their respect of being like, oh, he could hoop. So that's why I say that experience was unique. And once the ball goes up, you don't really realize it. I sit now and say, like, how blessed was I to play with a dude that's probably arguably one of the best to ever do it. Like, he's guarding me for a lot of the game. And Kobe, you know, rest in peace, who's not here anymore. Those things, like, to me, you take for granted because you don't know. But I didn't know I was experiencing something I was going to be able to look back on and be like, man, I got to play against him. Even LeBron, who's, you know, who's still on his path to winning chips, playing against him. But it was definitely an experience. I really didn't feel too much of the good or bad as far as like representing Russia and that's the United States. I think it's weird when they're playing the song and you're on the other side. But outside of that, what'd you say?
I said that had to be super weird to like be on the opposite side because like all your life you.
Wow, Kyle, lean up a little bit. It's hard to hear you.
Oh, my bad. I said that had to be super weird. Like this, like you know, like you said, you so used to being hearing the national anthem from one side, and now you on a totally different perspective, and then being from like the United States and Russia, like natural adversaries and all that, like.
It was super weird, and the weirdest part was like they had USA across their jerseys, and like you're not wearing it. Yeah. Like that was super weird. Like you see USA, and they're like you're the enemy. That was the most weird part. But like I said, once the ball goes up, I didn't really, you know, all of that goes out your mind. You're just playing basketball. But I had a great experience at the Olympics. I thought it was a great time. I'm so glad that I got the opportunity to do it. And to me, the best thing about that, aside from basketball, like if I had played well, like playing well was great. I think I would have been more sick if I didn't play well. Like, man, you played terrible. This one time you get to play against all these dudes and you play terrible. But being around all those great athletes and all those different sports in one place is like truly an amazing experience. Seeing like these, like Usain Bolt was eating at McDonald's the day before when he ran that race. Like, yo, he was at McDonald's. We talking about Usain Bolt. I didn't even know who that dude was. I'm like, yo, my man, like, who that's dude? The next day, this dude's running. He the fastest dude in the world. He eating McDonald's just like me, bro. Like, he ain't on no salad and grilled chicken. Dude eating McDonald's, man.
Crazy. So we'll talk about that stretch you had, man. You know, you competed in the Eurobasket, won the EuroLeague Championship, played in the Olympics that summer. So it was nonstop basketball for almost a year. So just talk about that experience. How much time did you get off, and was your vibe going into the next EuroLeague season?
I always say when you're winning, you don't even feel like you're getting tired. You just going from one thing to the next because you're winning. And I think adrenaline and your goals, and and I know the legend on the phone with us right now, the great one of probably the greats to go down. He knows, like, when you're getting to the end, you just want to embrace it. Like, Cal doesn't know if he got 3 more years or 5 more years, but he just wants to embrace every moment of what he has left. I think that's how I felt going through that. Like, yo, it's 2008. You're older. I'm 32, 33 years old. Like, I know I'm not going to play. I didn't want to play till I was 40. So I'm sitting there like, man, I don't know how much longer I have, but I want to win as much as I can, and I actually want to enjoy it. I don't want to go through this, like, upset or frustrated about money and about contracts or about how to treat me. It's like, I just want to go through this process. So I took maybe 2 weeks off in that year of playing, just total no basketball 2 weeks. But a lot of times I was always doing something, and not just over there. It's like, because you to me, I never want to get out of shape. So when you're going from one thing to the next, when you get out of shape, it's going to be an injury. It's already hard to not get an injury, but now you're out of shape, and then you catch it. Like, so I just didn't want anything bad to happen over that time, because all the things that mattered to me were coming up. Like, the EuroLeague season was coming up, then the Eurobasket, and like you said, you go through another EuroLeague season, then you go to the Olympics. Like, all that stuff was coming, and I wanted to be the best I could possibly be at that time, and that's what I was pushing for. So the time went fast, because you're going from one place and, you know, they're traveling in Europe and all that. So it didn't seem like that long, but I understand when guys do that for 7, 8 years, how taxing that can be when you're playing in the finals. Like how those dudes do it in Spain and year after year. You know, man, they really are beating up their bodies, and they're doing it at a level that's like, I mean, it's an elite level.
Talk a little more about when you guys got back, and this will happen, like, you know, EuroLeague showing all these old finals, and they showed the 08-09 final versus Panathinaikos, and kind of just go through that final game. I mean, to me, that's like one of the best Final Four games that a lot of people necessarily talk about. Because it seemed like it was kind of like a boxing match, going back and forth. So
it's crazy because I know that everybody says Messina and Obradovic have this thing. Obradovic always wins, right? Like you know, Messina has that, like, I want to beat him, but he never put that on us, right? But that game, the first half, I felt like they had played the best they could play. They made every shot, and I think the emotions of that game and what he wanted to do got the best of him, because when he came in at halftime, it was like the game was over. Yeah. Like, Messina was checked out. Like, I felt like he was. Now, I don't know this, right? But just, it wasn't like, look, they played the best they can play. We got to do this. It was like, hey, guys, I mean, we just want to make the game competitive. So when he left, I brought the team together, and I don't speak. Like, I'm not the team dude. I was never a captain. That's just not my thing. Like, I'm not a vocal person. But, I mean, I sound like I am on this little interview, but I ain't that vocal. I ain't that vocal. But I told the team, I was like, they not beating us. They not better than us. They ain't that good. And we sitting here like, it's over. We're going to beat them. In the second half, as we started chipping away, Messina started coaching. But you could tell, like, we believe. Like, you didn't watch that game saying, like, nah, CSKA don't believe they can win. Yeah. Like, that second half, like, we really believe we can win. It always, you know, games are won by 1 or 2 possessions, man. You got to make the plays in order to win. And we didn't make them. And kudos to Panathinaikos. Like, I feel like, man, they deserve to win. They played hard, just as hard as we did. They made, you know, their coach made the right decisions. Those dudes had to put their ego aside. So, like, I remember Saros was getting older. He was playing a little role, and Spinolis was out there playing a role, and Diamantidis. I mean, Spinolis didn't help you win a couple rings. So, you know, like, he was playing a role on that team. He wasn't Spinolis or who he played with y'all. He was in his role, which was – so I feel like everybody sacrificed. So, although that one probably hurt the most, I would say, like, I wouldn't say that they didn't deserve it. Like, they earned it. They went out there and beat us. That one hurts for me the most is because I've always, my whole career, always wanted to go back to back. I feel like that's what puts guys in a different class. Like, it's cool to win one. It's cool to win one here and then one. But in order to truly, truly go into an elite class, you got to go back to back. So, you know. So, you know what I mean? Like, that's how I've always felt. I ain't throwing him under the bus. All I did was this. I ain't even say that. Like, to me, that's a special class. You know what I mean? It's how I view players. I can't speak on how other people are viewed or how other people rank players, but to me, you go into a special category when you can go back to back at that level and be an important piece and be one of the reasons why they do it. So, man, that hurt because I knew that was one of probably my last but my best chance to go back to back. And we didn't do it. So, you know, that one sticks with me a little bit. But, you know, I didn't, but at least I'm sitting here talking to somebody that did. You know what I mean?
Guess we could talk about your, you know, that 2010, 2011 season ended up being your last season with CSKA. I know it wasn't the best season, but dig into that a little bit.
That was a weird season because at the beginning of the year, we had a Serbian coach. He had brought in Jamal Gordon and Boban and brought in some players that fit what we were doing, but were backups, not starters.
He didn't. Not to be cut you off, but I heard that he didn't speak English, right?
Didn't speak any English. Zero. So we had somebody translating in English and translating in Russian. He didn't speak Russian either. So we had a person translating in both. I just thought he brought in 2 players that should have been backups instead of starters. And I'm not saying this is why this happened, because we probably still would have struggled, but like the first probably 2-3 months of the season, I had to miss because they kept putting me through this heart thing. So they were like, I did you go through your fitness test when you first get there in Russia, and they were like, oh, there's something off. Now I didn't done this thing for 9 years. I'm like, something's off. So they sent me to Austria. I did Austria, and they were like, oh, we think it's something. Can you go to the States? So I ended up going to the Mayo in Minnesota. Then I ended up going to Houston. So I was doing all this just to play. And then when I got back, I had to go to Austria again for them to give me a clearance in order to play. So all this traveling, I missed the States trip. They had won a game in the States, and now all of a sudden they was like, oh, CSKA gonna win. Like, he acted as if he didn't need me. So I'm like, all right, I said I would be here for the contract. I'll stay until they need me. So I did that, and he just sat me out this whole time. So even though I got cleared, he was like, well, he needs to go through 30 days of practice and all this other BS. And I'm like, yo, you got me flying all these places. We back now. The season about to start, and I got to go through another 30 days. We had started off like 0-4 in the EuroLeague. I didn't play yet. Like literally, I'm on the bench not playing. We 0-4. So I'm just sitting there like, I don't really, I have nothing personal to do. I think that we failed him as much as he failed us. I feel like guys didn't give him a chance. I felt like he came in and tried to change what we had established. And that's hard to do as a new coach, to come in and just change everything. We had the same team. We had Kriapa. We had Shiskauskas. We had Schmoders. All these guys, we had grew together. And then you come in and you're like, all right, well, Jamon is going to be this, and Boban's going to be this. We're going to change the offense. And we're going to do this. And it just, dudes was off that. And especially when we started losing. And when we started losing, you could just tell he was losing people. So they won't sit here and tell the truth, but we had a meeting. I'm not going to say he was in the meeting, but they were like, who thinks he needs to go? Everybody's except my hand went up in that meeting. Wow. And it was 5 players. Y'all figure out the rest. So my thing was like, yo, like, I don't believe in firing nobody. That's how, like, you signed up for this. So we got to figure it out. But that was it. So, but when it got out like I was the one pushing it because I wasn't playing. But I wasn't pushing it. I didn't care. Like, how am I mad? He ain't playing me. Okay. Like, all right. But it was like, oh, JR didn't. No, I didn't say a word. I was the only one that was like, no, we're not really giving him a chance. How many of us really tried to run this new offense? Or did, as soon as things go bad, we like, go back to what we do? He ain't no good. I think he was a good coach, honestly. I just don't think he knew what it took to coach at our level. It wasn't partisan. You didn't have all these young players. This is a veteran team. So I'll be the first to say, I don't think he was a bad coach. I just think he got in a bad situation, man. And it's, at CSKA, you know how it is. You win, you lose 4 straight games. It's like you lost 20.
Yeah.
So you know how that goes. But it was not me who was like, oh, no. And I'm putting on a record. I was not the dude that raised his hand when they was like, should he be gone? But we got through that. We changed like 2 or 3 coaches that year. And towards the end of the year, I was probably playing some of my best basketball. Ended up getting whatever, MVP of the finals. We beat Kimki at Kimki. I had like a great series. I knew they were making changes. My thing of retiring was like, did I want to go through all this stuff all over again? Or are they just going to say, go ahead, you can play? Or are they going to say, you got to do this to get the heart clearance thing? The second thing is like, I had told the Tootin, see, I came in with Kushinka, but Tootin is who runs it now. But Tootin's a great dude too. Like, nothing to do. I think Tootin is a real good dude. Yeah. But where I'm from is like, you got to beat me to take my spot. And when they were like, oh, we're bringing in Teodosic and all that, and I was like, oh, I guess we playing together, because he wanted to be better than me. Like, ain't gonna be no like, oh, you just come sit on the bench. And to me, the conversation wasn't, hey, the best player will win. It was like, hey, we promised him this, and we'll figure the rest out. And I'm not coming over to figure it out. Like, you got to take my spot. I mean, anybody, if you take my spot for 5 years with Papa Lucas, if he was ever better, I I'll be your backup. Like, I'm cool with being your backup. But if you got to beat me for my spot, I don't believe in like, oh, well, you deserve it. No, man, this is my team. So you ain't going to come and I'm just going to give it to you. Like, I'm just going to just say, hey, man, the dinner table is yours. I said it, but you can eat. Nah, I ain't going to set the table and you going to eat. Nah, bro, I don't work that way. So for me, it was like the conversation wasn't the way I thought it would be. Like, hey, we'll figure it out. It was almost like we promised him this and we'll figure the rest out. And I was like, I'm cool. I had a great run. I win. I'll leave out with a chip. No hard feelings. We good. And I didn't really want to go anywhere else at the time because I knew I was probably about to go through the hard thing all over again. So I was like, man, maybe this is God telling me it's my time. And I prayed about it and was like, I'm out. And I didn't have no conversation with a student. I didn't make no announcement. I didn't, I'm not a big Twitter or Facebook or Instagram dude. I was just like, I'll just go out into the sunset and let somebody else eat and be great. And I'm just glad it's Cal. Like, it could have been a lot of people. Like, I'm going to be real with y'all. It could have been a lot of people, but I'm glad it's Cal. Like, when you do something and you do it for as long as I did it, you always think, like, it'll last a long time, right? Oh, man, it might last 10 years or 15 years. Like, yo, like, I've been out of the game 10 years, and there's somebody already doing more and better than what I've done. So to me, I'm like, man, it's an honor to know, like, somebody that looked like me, grinded like me, took the hammer and was like, what you did, I'm going to take it further. So I've never had anything but love for Kyle and what he's accomplished because I feel like he's taken what I've done and said, I'm going to do more and do better. And I appreciate that, brother, and that's real. Be real with you, bro.
You too. Like, I mean, the fact that, like, and I want to publicly say, I told Tracy the same thing, was like, when I first came to Cheska, one of the reasons why I came to Cheska because I wanted to try to, all I heard about was JR and trading. And, how great it was when you guys were here. And for me, it was like, we'll walk in there, and every day I would look at that 2006 and 2008 EuroLeague title, and that was like my motivation. I was like, listen, like, I want to help and try to bring this team back to, to where it was when you guys had it. I used to look at, like, YouTube, and I used to look at all the things you guys did, and I used to, ask, Duda and all these guys about stories about, different things you did. And I used to go in the room up in Denver, and I've seen all the pictures and all that different type of stuff. And it was like, man, it was like you guys were like motivation. Like, not like I say real rap, like you said, like you guys literally blazed the trail for like for guys like me and for American players that come in. Because like when I hear talk about all the great things you did and the things that you accomplished, even the things you accomplished now, and it was like, man, I want to be like those guys, and even still today, like I'm still striving to be like these guys. So I mean, I give my respect publicly to you. Like I said, we've had plenty of conversations, but publicly, I tell you, man, thank you. I'm very to accomplish all your career and the things that you helped set in Moscow and that's more in general, man.
Hey, I appreciate it, Cal, for real. But yeah, I've always said that I always felt like I didn't think it would be you. I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was gonna be somebody that didn't look like me, that was gonna take it and run with it. But the fact of not just how you've done it, but you've done it with class. You've done it not feeling like you didn't have to diminish what we did to make it you look better. And that's not done a lot. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people gotta like, this is what I did, forget what they did. And to me, that's why I said, man, I really do salute you because you had pressure. And you had pressure because reality of it is there was an expectation here that they wanted, like, people wanted you to fail. Yeah. And you didn't. And you stuck with it. People act like you ain't never lost. Like, you lost Final Fours too. Like, man, I got to do this again. And I got to get there again. And, hey, it's going to be even harder to do it. And I'm sure there's been many times they've been trying to say, look, we can try to win this without Cal. But they couldn't. And that's what I'm saying. I salute that. You had to grind because nothing's been given to you. And I feel like that's why one of the things I think we have so much in common. Like, no, they ain't giving you nothing. Like, even now, you like, man, I got to come back out here and do it again. I got to come back in shape again. I got to beat this dude out again. Like, man, I've done this. But it's like, it's almost like out of sight, out of mind. As if, like, because you're not there in the summer, and because it's like they forget that the foundation you set, you've earned it. And that's one of the things that I appreciate about you. Like, no, I ain't saying this because you're great. I'm saying because you earned it. You earned to be one of the best players in Europe ever. You earned that right. You earned to have everything you've gotten None of it was given to you. And that's what I respect. I respect that to the utmost, that you earned everything from. Yo, when y'all was at Olympiacos, I hated you. I wasn't even playing. And I was like, yo, that dude trying a way to beat y'all? Like, man, forget that dude 6'7" rebounding like that. I'm like switching out guard 1 through 5. I'm like, man, F that. If I was there, he wouldn't have beat me. I didn't like you until you got to CSKA. I ain't gonna front. I said, oh man, I like this dude, man. This dude, he got this. So that's just not in me, bro. So to be real with you, man, you've earned this, and I salute you for that, bro.
Appreciate it. So before we wrap this up, we can, like I said, we could talk for forever. Talk about your life after basketball, and talk about that, how you kind of made the transition, from basketball player to now you're more involved in the front office. Kind of talk, especially for the people that don't know what you've been doing, the fans that haven't got a chance to know about you and keep up with you. Talk about that transition for you.
Yeah. When I first got done, I was a little lost, like most people. When you're done, like basketball's been your whole life. I tried to do a little bit of the AAU coaching. I volunteered at a local high school. I just volunteered. They didn't know I played. This dude was talking to me like I didn't know a double dribble from an in and out. I'll just because I'm not from Michigan. Like my wife is from here. So I'm like, okay, I just want to help and give back in some way. And because CSKA has blessed me the same way God has, made sure I wasn't financially I wasn't trying to pay my rent. So I was like, cool. I did that for a year or two, and then it was like, you know what? I think I want to coach, right? And this is how God works. Anthony Parker, who was my nemesis at Maccabi, hated Maccabi. He was working in Orlando. So I applied for this high school job as a head coach here in Michigan. I go there. My suit was probably cost more than everybody's outfit in there, right? So I come in there suited, right? Now, mind you, hey, Cap, I came in here suited. I ain't even gonna lie to y'all. Like, I was not real crispy. I was like this, right? So I know some coaches. So I had like this whole thing of how we're going to do it, how I'm going to have after school programs. I'll bring the food, recruit for the kids, all this, because it's high school, right? Like, you got to take care of these kids. We're going to do study hall and we'll practice. The lady was like, oh, this is phenomenal, right? She was like, you'll definitely be hearing from us, right? She said it was 3 people interviewed. And she was like, I think it's going to be between you and another guy. But lady just came up to me. I was like, all right, thank you so much. To this day, I still haven't heard from him, but I'm going to tell you what happened, right? I'm dead serious. I still haven't heard from him. They've never called me. So like a week later, I called AP. I said, AP, man, I applied for this job. I don't know, but I'm going to come down this summer and just start scouting. I said, I don't really know if I want to scout, but is it cool with you kind of teaching me what you do? He was like, look, man, I'll help. Mind you, me and AP had never met like on some, hey, what's up? We only competed against each other. So I go down to Orlando. AP was like, who you here with? I'm like, by myself. He's like, you paid for it? I was like, yeah. I'm like, I just want to learn, right? Just on my own. AP is sitting there. He's like, look, I can't show you everything because you don't work for anybody, but I'll tell you kind of our format. So I'm sitting there. I'm just starting to write reports. No job, nothing. Just writing reports. I did maybe like 8 players that week in Orlando. Jeff Bauer was somebody who I knew from Summer League. I had played Summer League one summer. I'm so glad we didn't talk about that. But I had played Summer League one summer, right, with Jeff Bauer. And Jeff Bauer, he was leaving, and I was like, hey, Jeff, how you doing? He's like, hey, how you doing? What you doing? I was like, oh, I'm doing okay, just trying to figure out this scouting. Can I get your email? He was like, great. I sent him all the reports I wrote. So I tried to collect numbers from like 4 or 5 different people just to send them the reports. And none of them said I want a job. I said, hey, I'm thinking about getting into scouting. I just want to learn how to get better. Like, I don't want a job. It's not something I'm ready to commit to. I just want to learn how to do this. So if I ever do want to get into this, I know how to do it. Jeff Bauer and one other team replied. Nobody else replied. But AP, I was down basically next to AP like this the whole time, the whole week. His boss, Brian Wright, who was like just the director of scouting, gets offered the assistant GM job of the Detroit Pistons the day I'm down AP says, you got to take my boy with you. When I say blessed, bro, he's like, yo, I don't know if I got no job. He said, he ain't tripping on no money. 2 days later, JB hits me back and says, oh, I talked to Brian. He says, oh, if you'll come in at 60 grand, you can have the job. Just like that. Like, it happened. I'm down there just kicking it. Like, yo, I want to learn how to do this. I talked to Jeff. He gives me his thing. I send him some reports. His boss, Brian Wright, gets hired as the Detroit Pistons GM the day I'm down there. He's taking a job. And AP didn't have to say it. He's like, you got to take my boy. Like, AP didn't have to say that. I didn't know he got the job. Like, I didn't even know Brian. He was like, you got to take him. And just like that, I had a job in the NBA.
Crazy. Blessed footsteps, man.
Yeah. I'll be like you, man. I'm sure when you become GM, you gotta look out for us, man.
What I always say, when I say about paying it forward, I don't play that. Like, if I can help in anything I do, I'm going to pay it forward. I can't make you the GM of a team, but I got you.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so I did like 1 year in Detroit, like it's just like kind of like an intern. And then I did the second year really scouting. They gave me a job, up my salary. I did international and college. And then what's crazy is Brian ends up getting the assistant GM job with the Spurs. So they didn't want to replace Brian with another assistant GM. They just promoted within, and then they moved me to director of international scouting. So it's like I got moved right in from there to director of international scouting. And then 2 years later, we got fired. Stan Van Gundy was basically the president and the coach. Well, when he got fired, it was maybe about 15, 20 of us got fired. So I was in that mix that got fired. That summer, it's crazy. I got fired like on a Tuesday. I was like, oh, I'm just going to take a year off, hang out with the family, whatever. Like 3 days later, I had like 3 interviews in Vegas. So I interviewed with Philly, Brooklyn at the time, and there was one other team. And Orlando were the 3 teams I interviewed with. I chose the Philly job, and then I did Philly for 1 year. And then last year, Brooklyn came back like, look, I don't know why you didn't take us the first time, but you taking us this time. So now I'm in Brooklyn. So it worked. Like, it's worked out. I truly love what I do just because I get to stay around the game, and I get to learn. So there's so much behind the scenes of basketball that you don't know as a player that you kind of get to enjoy now. So I'm excited about that and excited about growing in this industry, and hopefully I can be a GM one day. I don't really know if that's my goal, but I know I just want to keep growing. And my thing is, I'm not really into titles, but if I can continue to grow in what I'm doing, I'll be happy.
One of our mentors was talking about you. He's really cool with you, Lamont Peterson.
Oh man.
Yeah. So we all talk to him from time to time.
He's still wearing his Golden State championship ring?
Oh, for sure. And we go on the phone for like 45 minutes at a time. He got stories and talks about so much, but he talks to us about the job and what he does from a day-to-day basis. So now being on the other side of it and scout, like, is it kind of hard to critique the players and scout the players, or is it easy with you being a basketball player?
It's easy for me. I get it. One thing I like, I'm doing mostly pro now with Brooklyn. So I'm like director of pro personnel. So I'm focused mostly on pro. But what I do love about the college and the international game is like, they were just like me. Like, I get it. I'm critiquing myself. Like, I'm critiquing me when I was in college. Like, I would want a real critique. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't give me, because if I really want to be good, I want to know the truth. So for me, the scouting part is easy. I think we all sometimes get into like, man, if he was this, or if he wasn't soft, or, you know what I mean? I just think that's not natural nature for all people, but I'm not really like a generational guy. Like, back then we did it this way. I'm not that guy. It's one of the reasons why I'm not like the dude that goes overseas, or Kyle will tell you, I ain't never been back to Russia. Like, I ain't gonna front. Like, it's somebody else's time. And I respect the person that's doing it. I don't lack for praise or attention. It's Cal's time. And hey, if I did go back over, or when I go back over, I want to be behind the scenes because it's his time. Like, and I would hope that everybody that has done it can appreciate the next person that's doing it. I never want to come over and be impeding on what Cal is doing, because I think that's a thing. It's a real thing that you're trying to get this attention, and all the fans are coming over, and for that one day, you feel like, nah, man, it's Cal time, and I want him to eat and enjoy it and do everything he can during that time, because at some point it's going to be somebody else's time. And he's going to hope that he passed it on forward so that they carry the torch. And if they don't, look, if he wasn't carrying the torch, I would be over there. But he's carrying the torch. Like, why do I need to be over there if I see me and somebody else? Don't need to be two of us there. So for me, that's how I do it. So the whole scouting thing is the same thing. Like, I'm not living when I played. How good is this player in this generation? How can he help our team? So I think I've been able to adjust and adapt to that pretty easy after ball.
Quick side note, how's my guy Jeff Peterson doing?
Jeff, man, great dude. Jeff is doing real good. He's my boss. He's it's my first year working with him. Okay. Real cool. Our whole staff is cool though. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I've been around a few groups, and this group is very inclusive, very, what do you need? How can I help you? Even we're away like this, like we're talking, emailing like every other minute. They're like, hey, did you see this? Oh, we was watching the game. Oh, The Last Dance. And these are people like, I don't even know like that, but we talking about everything. So I think I do like Brooklyn because of that. Like, it's a real close-knit group. And as I told y'all guys earlier, like, when they preach family, it's real. So when this coronavirus went down, like, it was like, what does your family need? Like, they sent my whole family mask. Like, they really do treat you like family. It ain't just like, oh man, hey, your family, how are you doing? It was, hey, we're going to send your whole family mask. They sent like Brooklyn Strong t-shirts and stuff for my kids. So they really do treat it like a family. And that's something that I really do appreciate.
You know, if you can go and give advice to these young hoopers out here, and, you know, these young ones, you know, start out their journey, what's a couple of words of encouragement you'll say to them?
The first thing I would say is you should be playing for that shoe rack behind Cal. If you can get to that, you know you've made it. I mean, and you see that leather couch? That is not from Art Band. Y'all know that, right? That is not from Art Band. No, let me stop. Let me stop.
Camera off.
Hey, being real, I guess what I would really say is, like, run your own race, man. Like, don't look out trying to see what Cal's making and what he's doing. Run your own race. If that's the dude you look up to, that's one thing. But get in your lane and do the best you can right where you're at. I always say, if you're the best where you at, you always gonna take that next step. But you want to take the next step and you ain't even the best where you at. So my thing would be, hey, if you're young and you know overseas, or you're trying to make it to the league, run your race, take the steps you need to take, but be the best where you at so you can get that next opportunity. Quit looking at everybody else that has that opportunity and saying, man, I wish I had that. Or if I had that, I would be. Why don't you do what you need to do where you at, and that next opportunity will present itself.
Thanks. Luke, man. I just need some courtside seats, bro. Next season, you know, and KD back on the floor. That's all I need.
Look, I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna do you like I did my 15 bands. I'm gonna give you one courtside game. I'm gonna let you pick, but just like I did my 15 bands, once it's gone, that's it.
That's all I can ask for.
All right, JR, man. I appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir.
Another family.
Hey, man.
Hello. And stay safe.
Yep, you too, man. All y'all families, man. Be safe.
Yes, sir. Appreciate
all
you.
Right. Yep.